Nathan Cole reached across the table, took the $1 million check out of the billionaire's hand, and tore it in half in front of 400 people. The ballroom went silent. Forks stopped moving. Somewhere near the stage, a woman gasped. The man across from him, the same man who 3 years earlier had taken Nathan's wife, smiled and said, "You'll regret that." Nathan let the pieces fall. "No," he said. "She will." What nobody in that room knew, not the billionaire, not the cameras, not even Nathan, was that a woman named Victoria Sterling was standing 11 feet behind him. And she'd heard every word. Before we go on, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. And if stories about honor second chances and men who never quit mean something to you, subscribe. This one takes a while to unfold. 3 hours earlier, Nathan Cole had been standing in his kitchen in a rented house 9 miles from the naval base arguing with a 9-year-old about a necktie. "It's crooked," Lily said. "It's fine. Dad, it's crooked." Nathan looked down at her. She was sitting on the counter in pajamas covered in cartoon planets, holding a bowl of cereal she'd made herself, because she'd decided last month that she was old enough to make her own cereal, and Nathan hadn't had the heart to argue. How crooked? Crooked enough that a lady's gonna notice. There aren't going to be any ladies noticing anything. Lily set down the bowl. She held out both hands the way a surgeon does before an operation. "Come here." He came. He bent down. He let his 9-year-old daughter retie his tie, which took her about 90 seconds and involved a great deal of muttering. "Okay," she said finally. "Now you look like a person." "What did I look like before?" "Like a guy who fixes boats." "I do fix boats." "Yeah, but tonight you're not supposed to look like it." Nathan straightened up. Lily picked up her cereal again and started eating it like nothing had happened, which was one of the things about her that he could never fully explain to people. She had a way of doing enormous things, kind things, brave things, and then just moving on to breakfast. "Miss Ruiz is coming at 6, he said. "I know." "Bed at 9. "I know." "Real 9, not Lily 9. "Dad, Lily 9 is 9:45. I've done the math." She grinned into the bowl. He stood there a second longer than he needed to. That was another thing he did, and he was aware of it, and he did it anyway. Every time he left the house for a shift, for a deployment, for a stupid gala, he didn't want to attend. He stood in the doorway, a beat too long, looking at her, memorizing her, because a part of him had never stopped believing that people you loved could just be gone when you came back. "Dad," Lily said without looking up, "you're doing the thing." "What thing?" "The staring thing." "I'm not staring." "You're staring." "I'm supervising." "Go to your party." He went. The party had been Marcus Hale's idea, and Marcus Hale's ideas were the kind you could refuse 11 times and lose on the 12th. Hale was a senior chief with 26 years in a laugh you could hear through a bulkhead, and an absolute inability to leave other people's business alone. He'd been trying to get Nathan out of the house since the divorce. Bowling, barbecues, a blind date with his wife's cousin that ended with Nathan politely explaining to a very nice woman that he had to go home because his daughter had a science project on the rings of Saturn due Thursday. "You know what your problem is," Hale had said 3 days before the gala, leaning against the doorframe of Nathan's office. "I've got a lot of problems, Senior. Your problem is you think you're being noble." Nathan hadn't looked up. "I'm being a father. You can be both. Guys do it every day. Not this guy." Hale had come in and sat down anyway, uninvited, and put a heavy envelope on the desk. "What's this?" "Charity thing. Downtown. Big money. People big money checks, and about 140 grand this year goes to the Family Support Fund. The one that paid for Petty Officer Boyd's kid's surgery. Remember that." Nathan had remembered that. "So they want sailors there," Hale said. "Real ones. Not recruiting posters. Somebody who can stand up and say thank you and mean it. Send Boyd. Boyd's in Rhoda. Send yourself. I'm going. I want you going too." Nathan had finally looked up. Why? And Hale, who had a laugh you could hear through a bulkhead, and who never got serious about anything if he could help it, got serious. Because I've known you 11 years, he said. And in the last 3, I've watched you turn into a real good machine. You show up. You do the work. You take care of that girl better than any man I ever met, and you're dying coal. Quietly, politely, on schedule. Like a guy who's decided the rest of his life is just a long shift. Nathan hadn't said anything. So come to the party, Hale said, standing up. Eat a shrimp, shake a hand, prove me wrong. At the door, he'd paused. There's one other thing. What? Nothing, Hale said. Wear the suit, not the uniform. Which Nathan would realize later was not nothing at all. He almost turned the car around twice. The first time was at the interstate exit when he thought about Lily's homework and told himself she'd need help with it, and then remembered she'd already finished it Tuesday because she was, in her own words, not a procrastinator like some people in this family. The second time was when he saw the hotel. Nathan had been to 16 countries. He'd walked the deck of a destroyer at 3 a.m. with the whole black ocean breathing under him. He'd been in rooms where the wrong word could get a man killed. But nothing in his life had ever made him feel as out of place as pulling a 9-year-old Ford Explorer with a cracked bumper up to a valet stand where the car in front of him cost more than his house. The valet was maybe 22. Sir. Yeah. Do you want a ticket? There's a booster seat in the back, Nathan said. Don't judge me. The kid laughed. It was the last honest laugh Nathan would hear for 2 hours. Inside the ballroom was gold and glass and noise. Nathan got about 8 steps in before he understood exactly what kind of room it was, the kind where everyone was performing, and everyone knew everyone was performing, and the performance was the point. He heard 3 separate conversations about yachts. He heard a man say the phrase, philanthropically speaking, with a straight face. He found the wall. He found the far end of the wall. He stood there with a glass of water and started counting exits out of pure habit, and he'd gotten to 4 when Hale materialized beside him in a suit that fit him like a dress uniform, fits a man who's worn one for 26 years. There he is. I'm here, Nathan said. You've won. Note the time. Eat something. I ate. You ate at 4:30 with your kid. That's not eating, that's fueling. Hale handed him a small plate with 2 things on it that Nathan could not identify. What is this? I don't know. It's good. Nathan ate one. It was annoyingly good. Okay, Hale said too casually. Now, before you get mad. Nathan lowered the plate. That's a hell of an opening. There's an auction later. Fine. For the family fund. Fine. And they auction some things. Hale. Art, vacations, golf with a quarterback. Hale. Hale sucked his teeth. And historically, they do a segment where they match people for dinner. It's a matchmaking thing. Rich folks bid, the money goes to the fund, 2 people go eat a steak somewhere and take a picture for the newsletter. Nathan set the plate down on a table that probably wasn't for plates. You entered me. I submitted your name. You entered me into a matchmaking auction. For charity. For charity. Coal. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I know. I'm 38 years old. I know. I fix boats, Marcus. You command a division of 41 people and you're being modest on purpose because it's easier than being seen. Hale said it fast and quiet, the way a man says a thing he's been holding a while. Look, it's $200 a plate in there, and I put your name on a card. Nobody's making you do anything. If they call it, you walk up, you smile. Some woman with 3 vacation homes pays $8 grand to eat dinner with a guy in uniform, and a kid on this base gets a wheelchair ramp. That's it. That's the whole crime. Nathan looked at him for a long moment. You said not to wear the uniform. Hale looked at the ceiling. Marcus? Because I didn't want you to know why you were going, Hale said. You'd have said no. I'm saying no now. Okay? I'm serious. Okay. Hale held up both hands. Then it's a night out. Have a water. Go home to your kid. I'll pull the card. He walked off toward the stage. He did not pull the card. Nathan would find that out in about 40 minutes. Yeah, he'd been at the wall maybe 10 minutes when he heard the voice behind him. You look like you're planning your escape. Nathan turned. She was standing with a glass she wasn't drinking from in a dress that was expensive in a way that didn't announce itself, and the first thing he noticed about her wasn't the dress or the jewelry, or the fact that two separate men across the room were watching her the way you watch a stock. It was that she looked exhausted. Old habit, he said. Military dim, Navy. She nodded slowly like she was filing it somewhere. You're the only person here standing still, she said. Is that a crime? It's a warning sign. In this room, standing still means either you don't want anything or you want something so big you're being patient about it. Which do I look like? She studied him. She actually studied him, not a glance, not a scan for a name tag or a watch or a wedding ring. I honestly don't know, she said. That's why I came over. Nathan almost smiled. You always walk up to strangers and accuse them of patience. I always walk up to the person who isn't looking at me, she said. It's a very short list. Usually it's the bartender. Bartender's got the best job in the room. He's also the only one who'll tell me the truth about anything. She put her glass down on the ledge beside his water. Then she put her hand out. Victoria. He shook it. Nathan. Nathan what? Cole. Nathan Cole. She said it once the way people do when they're deciding whether to remember it. Do you know who I am? Nathan Cole? Should I? And something crossed her face, then fast gone in half a second, that he would think about for weeks afterward. It wasn't offense. It wasn't amusement. It was relief. No, she said. You really shouldn't. Send. They talked for 19 minutes. Nathan knew the number because he checked his watch when he finally excused himself out of the old sailor's reflex of accounting for time and was startled by it. 19 minutes was longer than he'd talked to any adult who wasn't wearing a uniform in over a year. She asked what he did. He told her 14 years surface fleet, currently shore-duty maintenance and readiness, which was a job people's eyes glazed over at and hers didn't. So when something breaks on a ship at sea, she said, and it's the middle of the night and there's no port for 1,000 miles, then it's my guy's problem. And if your guys can't fix it, then it's my problem. And if you can't fix it, then people die, Nathan said. So we fix it. She was quiet a second. I have 4,000 employees, she said. Nobody dies if we get it wrong. We just lose money. And you'd be amazed how many of them act like the ship is sinking. They're scared of you. She looked up sharply. Excuse me. You said nobody dies, but somebody gets fired, right? That's the ship for them. That's the whole ocean. Victoria Sterling opened her mouth, closed it. That's the rudest thing anyone said to me in 9 months, she said. I apologize. Don't, she said. That's not a complaint. That's a data point. He did smile, then a little. She asked if he was married. He said no. She asked it the way people ask about weather, and he answered it the way people answer about weather, and neither of them made it into anything. Then she asked if he had kids, and Nathan hesitated because that question was a door, and he'd learned to keep it shut in rooms like this because the second you tell a stranger you're a single father, you watch their face reorganize itself into pity, and you have to stand there and be pitied while holding a glass of water. But he was tired, and she'd looked at him like a person, so he opened the door. 1, he said. Lily, she's 9. What's she like? Nobody ever asked that. They asked how old. They asked who has her tonight, which was really asking, where's her mother? Which was really asking, what did you do wrong? Nobody asked, what's she like? She's smarter than me, Nathan said. Everyone says that. Yeah, but I have evidence. Victoria's eyebrows went up. Present it. She's into astronomy, has been since she was 6, and about a year ago she starts telling me every star has a story. Which fine, that's a cute kid thing. But then she starts building them. Whole histories. This one's an old star that used to be famous. This one's a young star that's showing off. This one's a star that lost somebody. And I'm sitting there thinking that's just a 9-year-old making stuff up. Until she says, "Dad, they're all dead already anyway. The light just didn't get the message yet." Victoria didn't say anything. 9 years old, Nathan said. What did you say to her? I said, "That's real cheerful. Kid, eat your peas." She laughed. It was a short, surprised sound, and it came out of her like something that had been sitting in a locked drawer. 2 people across the room turned to look. Nathan watched Victoria notice them noticing and watched the laugh go away, folded up and put back. You didn't answer her, she said. No. Why not? Because she was right, Nathan said. And I didn't have anything better. She asked him one more question that night. She asked it after a pause that went on long enough that he could tell she was deciding whether to. Can I ask you something that's none of my business? That's usually the good ones. Your wife left. Nathan went still. I'm guessing, Victoria said. You said she's 9 and you didn't say we. Nobody says she's 9 without we, unless there's no we left. He looked at her for a long moment. 3 years ago, he said. Was it bad? It was quiet, Nathan said. That's worse. He hadn't planned to say the rest. He said it anyway, and he'd wonder about that for a long time, what it was about the woman that pulled it out of him. Maybe just that she asked, and then shut up, which is a rarer skill than people think. We weren't fighting, he said. That's what everybody gets wrong. They picture screaming. There wasn't any screaming. I came home off a 7-month deployment, and she'd already made the decision. She'd just been waiting to say it to my face, because she wanted to be able to tell herself she said it to my face. What did she say? She said, I'm not angry at you, Nathan. I just want more than this. Victoria didn't move. And here's the thing, Nathan said. She was right. That's the part nobody wants to hear. She wasn't a villain. She was 34 years old in a base town, married to a guy who was gone half the year, and she looked down the road at the next 20 years, and she saw more of the same. She wanted a bigger life. That's not a crime. You're defending her. I'm being accurate. Those aren't the same thing. Nathan looked into his glass. She met a man, he said. He had the bigger life. He had all of it. Houses, planes, the whole catalog. And she left. With Lily. No. Nathan's voice changed. On that one word didn't get louder, got flatter the way a man's voice goes when he's walking across ground he doesn't walk across. She didn't take her. She didn't want her, Nathan said. Victoria's face did something then. Nathan saw it happen and looked away because he didn't want to see it, because he'd seen it on 12 other faces, and he knew exactly what came next. Oh my God! I'm so sorry. That poor baby. But it didn't come. What Victoria Sterling said after about 4 seconds was, Does Lily know that? Nathan turned back. No. What does she think? She thinks her mom needed to figure some things out, Nathan said. She thinks it's temporary. She thinks there's a reason. And I let her think it because she's 9, and because the day she finds out the truth is going to come, and I'd like to not be the one who hands it to her. So you're carrying it. Somebody's got to. Victoria Sterling looked at him for a very long time. After all of that, she said quietly, why are you still? She stopped and restarted, and Nathan understood she was choosing the words carefully, which was not something she seemed to do often. How did you not go cold? I've met men who lost a parking space and went cold. And Nathan gave her the answer. He didn't know it was the answer. He didn't know it was going to be the thing that reorganized the rest of both their lives, or that she would repeat it 6 weeks later to a boardroom of men who had been trying to take her company from her, and that not one of them would have anything to say back. He just said the true thing, because he was tired and it was late, and she'd asked. Because my daughter deserves to grow up knowing that somebody stayed. The ballroom kept going around them. Glasses, laughter, a string quartet doing something bloodless in the corner. Victoria Sterling didn't say anything at all. Then she said, "Excuse me," and walked away. Nathan stood there a while and eventually decided that was that, and he'd been rude or too honest, which in rooms like that one was the same thing. He was actually reaching for his phone to text the sitter that he'd be home early when the lights dimmed and a man in a tuxedo took the stage and said the words that ruined the night. And now, everyone's favorite part, the heart of the Fleet auction. Nathan's head came up. At the far side of the room, Marcus Hale was very carefully looking at a wall. "Every year," the man on stage said, "we bring up a few of the folks who serve this country, and we let you good people bid for the honor of buying them dinner. Every dollar goes to the Family Support Fund. Last year we raised $140,000. Applause. And this year, we're going to beat it." Nathan crossed the room to Hale in about 9 seconds. "Marcus. Cole, you said you'd pull it." "I said I would," Hale said. "I didn't say I did. Pull it now. They've printed the cards." "Marcus, $8,000, Nathan." Hale finally turned and faced him, and he wasn't laughing anymore. "That's what the Boyd kids' ramp cost. $8,000, and the fund said no, because there wasn't any money left in April. You know who paid for it? 12 guys off a duty section, chipped in, petty officers making 40 grand a year." He jabbed a finger at the room. "These people spend 8 grand on a dinner, so yeah, I put your name in. Be mad at me tomorrow." Nathan stood there with his jaw working. Lieutenant Nathan Cole, United States Navy, 14 years of service. The spotlight found him. 400 people turned around. Nathan Cole, who had once talked a 19-year-old fireman down off a catwalk in the middle of the Arabian Gulf, discovered that he had no idea what to do with his hands. "Go," Hale said. "I'm going to kill you. Go." He walked up. He shook the MC's hand. He said into a microphone a sentence about the family fund that he could not afterward remember one word of. The bidding started at 2,000. It went to 5 in about 11 seconds, which was... Nathan understood dimly not really about him. It was about the room. It was a game, and the chips had faces on them. 6,000, 6,5, 8. And then a voice from a table near the front said, $50,000. The room made a sound. Nathan looked out past the lights, and the entire floor of his life dropped out from under him. The man standing at the table with his hand raised was in his 50s, tanned in a way you only get on purpose with silver at the temples and the specific relaxed posture of a man who has never once in his life been told no. His name was Alan Whitmore. Nathan had never met him. Nathan had seen his face exactly twice, once in a business magazine his ex-wife had left on the kitchen counter 3 years and 4 months ago, and once in a photograph on a beach in an email a well-meaning friend had sent him that Nathan had wished every day since that he had never opened. Alan Whitmore was the man who had his wife. 50,000, the MC said, delighted unaware. $50,000 from Mr. Alan Whitmore, ladies and gentlemen. And Whitmore was smiling at him. Not a random smile. Not the smile of a man throwing money at a charity. He was smiling at Nathan. Directly. Warmly. The way you smile at someone you've been waiting to meet. He knew. He'd known the whole time. Nathan stood in the lights and felt something come up through him that he had spent 3 years, 4 months, and 11 days holding underwater with both hands. Going once. Nathan didn't hear the rest. It took 11 minutes for the room to release him. People shook his hand. Somebody said, "Thank you for your service," 4 separate times, and Nathan said, "Thank you for supporting the fund," 4 separate times, and every single one of those exchanges happened somewhere very far away from where he actually was. He found Whitmore near the bar. He hadn't decided to. His legs had. "Lieutenant?" Whitmore turned like he'd been expecting him, which he had. "Alan Whitmore." He put his hand out. Nathan looked at it. "I know who you are," Nathan said. Whitmore let the hand drop unbothered. I figured. Buy you a drink. No. Fair enough. Whitmore took a sip of his own. That's a hell of a thing your senior chief did putting you up there. He didn't know I take it. No. No. Whitmore agreed. He seems like a good man. Why are you here? Same reason as you. Charity. Why did you bid? Whitmore smiled. It was a good smile. That was the worst part. It was a genuinely good smile, warm and easy, the smile of a man everybody liked. Nathan understood standing there exactly how a lonely 34-year-old woman in a base town might have looked up one day and seen that smile. Because I wanted 3 minutes with you, Whitmore said, and I've learned that $50,000 is the cheapest way to get anybody's 3 minutes. You've got about 40 seconds. Then I'll be quick. Whitmore set his glass down. Danielle's not doing well. Nathan didn't say anything. She won't tell you that. She won't tell me either, really, but I'm not blind. She talks about the girl. He paused. Lily. She talks about Lily. Not often. But at night sometimes, and she thinks I'm asleep. Get to it. I'd like to fix it, Whitmore said. I'd like to make it right. Not for me, I'm not asking you to like me, Lieutenant, I gave that up. But Danielle's going to spend the rest of her life carrying this, and I have the resources to lift some of it off her, and I'm a man who uses what he's got. He reached into his jacket. Now, before you react, he said, understand that I've thought about this for a long time, and I've had lawyers look at it, and there's no trick in it. He took out a folded check and set it on the bar and pushed it toward Nathan with 2 fingers. Nathan looked down. $1 million. That's not for you, Whitmore said. That's a trust. Education, medical, housing. I don't care it's structured so it's hers at 25, and nobody, including me, can touch it. My attorneys drew it up in January. It's been sitting in my desk for 6 months because I couldn't figure out how to hand it to you without you putting me through that wall. Nathan didn't touch it. What do you want? Visitation, Whitmore said. There it was. Reasonable, supervised on your terms in your town at whatever pace you set. Whitmore went on quickly, smoothly, a man laying out a term sheet. A weekend a month, an hour a month, Christmas, I don't care. The trust isn't contingent on it. I want to be very clear about that. My lawyers made me put it in writing. The money's the girl's either way. But I'm asking. Danielle wants her daughter back in her life, and she's too ashamed to ask you herself, so I'm asking. Because that's what I'm for. And Nathan Cole, who had not raised his voice at another human being in 3 years, who had absorbed every insult, every hearing, every well-meaning question at every school event, who had folded himself down smaller and smaller and smaller, so that his daughter would never have to feel the shape of what he was carrying, heard in the back of his skull the sound of his own front door closing on a Tuesday in March, and he heard a 9-year-old's voice saying, "Do you think Mom's gonna call on my birthday, though? Like maybe just to say hi." She didn't want her, Nathan said. Whitmore blinked. "I'm sorry," when she left. Nathan's voice was very quiet and very level, and around them the noise of the bar was starting to thin out because people can feel these things before they hear them. I offered her joint custody, in writing. My lawyer drew it up. She had every right to that girl, and I would have honored it because I actually believed that a kid needs her mother. Whitmore's face changed. She said no, Nathan said. She said it wouldn't work with the travel. Silence. You didn't know that, Nathan said. Did you? No. She told you I fought her. She told you I was bitter, I was rigid, I was punishing her, I wouldn't let her see her own child. Nathan watched it land. Square. Watched a very controlled man lose about 4 inches of height in the space of a second. That's what she told you. For 3 years. And you believed her. And you sat in your office in January. And you had lawyers draw up a check to fix it, because you're a man who uses what he's got. Whitmore said very carefully, Lieutenant? And now she's sad at night, Nathan said. Now 3 years later, when it's all paid for, and the houses are decorated, and there's nothing left to want, now she's sad at night. And you want to buy the part she threw away. That's not... Do you know what my daughter did for her 7th birthday? Nathan said. She waited all day. She'd made a card. She made a card for her mother and she carried it around the house all day, and at 8:30 at night she put it in the drawer of her nightstand and she said, "It's okay, Dad, the time zones are weird," and she went to bed. The bar was silent now. It was silent in a widening circle. "That card is still in that drawer," Nathan said. "I've never touched it. I check once in a while. It's still there." Whitmore's mouth opened. Nathan reached across the bar and picked up the check. "Nathan," Whitmore said, and it was the first time he'd used the first name, and it came out almost gentle, almost desperate. "That's for her. Whatever you think of me, whatever you think of Danielle, that girl gets $1 million and it costs you nothing." "It costs everything," Nathan said, and he tore it in half. The sound of it was so small. That was the thing he'd remember. 400 people, a room of gold and glass, and the whole night turned on a noise like a page. He tore it again, and again. And he let the pieces go, and they fell between them onto the bar and the floor. Alan Whitmore looked at the pieces of $1 million on the carpet, and then up at Nathan, and for the first time all night, the good smile was gone, and what was underneath it was a man who had never been told no. "You'll regret that," he said quietly. "You know that right in 10 years, when she's applying to schools, when you're doing the math on a lieutenant's pension, and she's looking at you across a kitchen table, you're going to remember tonight. And you're going to know that you had it in your hand, and your pride threw it on the floor." "No," Nathan said. He was already turning away. "She will." Whitmore's face didn't move. "Excuse me." Nathan stopped. "When my daughter's 25, he said, "She's going to know exactly one thing about all of this. She's going to know her mother didn't come back for her, she sent a check. And she's going to know her father was standing right there, and he said no." Nathan's voice never rose. Not once. "The regret isn't mine, Mr. Whitmore. I'm not the one who'll have to explain it. Go home and tell your wife that, word for word. That's the only thing I've got left that she can't buy." He walked out. He got about 11 feet, and a woman's voice behind him, not loud, not raised, but pitched to carry the way voices get pitched by people who have spent 20 years making 4,000 employees stop talking, said Lieutenant Cole. Nathan turned. Victoria Sterling was standing there. She had been standing there, he realized, for some time. She had a glass she wasn't drinking from, and an expression he could not read at all. And behind her the entire room was looking at the two of them, and Nathan understood with a slow sinking certainty that whatever had just happened had happened in front of everyone. Victoria Sterling walked past him. She knelt down, in a dress that cost more than his car, in front of 400 of the wealthiest people in the state. Victoria. Sterling knelt on the carpet and picked up the pieces of $1 million check. She stood. She squared them in her hands, unhurried like a woman collecting a deposition. She looked at Alan Whitmore. "Alan," she said pleasantly, 9 years ago you sat in my office and told me my father was right about me." Whitmore's face went the color of paper. "Victoria, you're going to want to leave," she said. And then she turned around and she looked at Nathan Cole, and she said 7 words that he would spend a very long time trying to understand. "I've been looking for you," Victoria said, "for 30 years. Nathan stared at her. "What did you just say?" "I said you should let me walk you out," Victoria said. "You're about to get photographed, and you've got a face on you like a man who's going to say something honest to a reporter. That's not what you said." "No," she agreed. "But it's what you should do." Behind her, the room had started moving again, the way rooms do after something happens too fast, too loud, everyone talking about the weather at once. Somebody laughed too hard near the piano. A waiter walked past with an empty tray and looked at the pieces of paper on the floor, and then very carefully looked away. Alan Whitmore had not moved. "Victoria," he said, "you don't know what you just walked into. Alan, I've known what I walked into since you raised your paddle." She didn't turn around when she said it. She was still looking at Nathan. You paid $50,000 to have a conversation in front of 400 witnesses. You could have called him. You could have written a letter. You could have knocked on the man's door like a human being. You bought a stage. That's not... You wanted him to say yes in a room where saying no would look ugly. Now she turned. That's a technique, Alan. I've used it. Don't insult me by pretending it was an accident. Whitmore's jaw worked. He's got my... He stopped himself, restarted. There's a child involved. There is, Victoria said. And you brought her up in a bar. She let that sit exactly long enough. Go home, she said. And Alan Whitmore, who had a plane at the airfield and a name on a building downtown and had not been told no in 20 years until 11 minutes ago, picked up his glass, set it back down without drinking, and walked out through a room full of people pretending not to watch him do it. Nathan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. You didn't have to do that, he said. I didn't do it for you. That's the second nicest thing anybody said to me tonight. What was the first? Valet told me not to worry about the booster seat. Victoria almost smiled. She was still holding the pieces of the check. She looked down at them like she'd forgotten they were in her hand. Do you want these? She asked. No. You should take them. Why? Because in about 6 hours you're going to want to know it happened, she said. And there's going to be a version on the internet, and the version on the internet is not going to be yours. Nathan looked at her. How bad is this? He said. You tore up $1 million in a room where every third person owns a media property. She squared the pieces once more and held them out. It's not bad. It's biblical. He took them. He didn't know why. He folded them into his inside pocket, and they sat there against his chest for the rest of the night like something with a pulse. Then he said, You said 30 years. Victoria's face closed. It was a fast-practiced thing, a door swinging shut on a spring, and Nathan had spent 14 years reading men who didn't want to be read, and he recognized it instantly. I said a lot of things, she said. Let me walk you out. They got about 20 feet before Marcus Hale caught up with them. Cole. Hale's face was gray. Cole, I swear to God I didn't know. I did not know. Marcus, I have never in my life. Hale's hands were shaking. Nathan noticed that. 26 years, 2 war zones, and the man's hands were shaking. They sent me a list. It's a list of donors. I don't read the donor list, Nathan. I don't know these people. I put your name on a card because I wanted you to eat a shrimp and come home feeling like a person. Marcus? And I put you on a stage in front of the man who... Marcus. Hale stopped. Nathan put a hand on his shoulder. You didn't do this, he said. He did this. He's been sitting on that check since January waiting for a room. If it wasn't tonight, it was going to be a Tuesday in the parking lot at the commissary with Lily in the cart. Hale's eyes were wet. He looked furious about it. I've got a granddaughter her age, he said. I know. If somebody put a check on a bar for my I know senior. Hale swallowed hard. He looked at Victoria, then like he'd only just registered that there was a stranger standing there, and then he did the math on who she was, and Nathan watched 26 years of Navy bearing come down over the man's face like a shade. Ma'am? Senior Chief? You didn't have to do what you did. So I'm told, Victoria said. Hale nodded once, and then he said the thing he'd probably been building to since the check hit the carpet. He's a good man, he said. I don't know what you think you saw in there, but I've known him 11 years, and he's a good man, and he's going to get eaten alive by these people, and none of them are going to notice. Marcus, Nathan said quietly. I'm just saying it. I heard you. Victoria looked at Hale for a long moment. Senior Chief, she said. What's the family fund short this year? Hale blinked. Ma'am. The fund. You bid a boy's wheelchair ramp at me across a ballroom. I was standing 11 feet away. I heard the whole thing. Her voice didn't change at all. What's the shortfall? Hale's mouth opened. It's He looked at Nathan. Nathan didn't help him. It's about 91,000 for the year, give or take. It'll be there Monday. Ma'am, I can't. You didn't ask, Victoria said. That's why you're getting it. And she walked out. Nathan stood there with Hale for about 4 seconds. Cole, Hale said, what in God's name is happening? I have absolutely no idea, Nathan said, and went after her. He caught up at the valet stand. She was standing under the awning with her arms crossed, not looking at her phone, which struck him as strange because everybody in that building had been looking at a phone all night. That was $91,000, he said. It was a rounding error. That's not... Nathan stopped, started over. Don't do that. Do what? Make it small. He's going to take that money and buy a kid a ramp, and that kid's mother is going to cry in a parking lot. Don't make it a rounding error. Victoria turned her head and looked at him. You just tore up $1 million, she said, and you're lecturing me about respecting money. I'm lecturing you about respecting the ramp. Something happened in her face. Not the laugh from earlier, something smaller and harder to place. You're very difficult, she said. So I'm told. The valet came up with a key fob and said, Ms. Sterling, and gestured at a black car with a driver already standing at the door, and Victoria said, Give me a minute. And the valet retreated like a man who'd been given an order by a superior officer. Then she said without preamble, Do you know how many times I've watched a man take the check? Nathan didn't answer. That's not a figure of speech. I've done 400 and some acquisitions. I've sat across from founders people who built the thing with their hands, people who cried, talking about it, and I have put a number on a table and I have watched their face do the thing. She held up 2 fingers an inch apart. It takes about 1.5 seconds. There's the part where they're a person, and then there's the part where they're doing arithmetic, and you can see the seam. That's business, Nathan said. That's not... I'm not talking about business, Victoria said. And there it was again, the door on the spring. She heard herself and closed. Your car's here, Nathan said. Yes? You going to tell me the 30 years thing? No? Okay. She looked at him sharply. That's it. Okay. Ma'am, I've been up since 4:30. I've had 2 of something at a table and no dinner. My kid needs to be at school at 7:50, and about 9 minutes ago, I found out the man who took my wife has been carrying a check with my daughter's name on it in his desk since January. Nathan rubbed his face. So yeah, okay. You don't want to tell me a thing, don't tell me a thing. I'm not going to pry it out of you in a driveway. Victoria stared at him. Most people, she said slowly, would push. Most people want something. And you don't. I want to go home, Nathan said. He meant it flatly. He meant it as a fact. But he watched it land on her like he'd said something enormous, and he did not understand why, and he would not understand why for another 6 days. Nathan, she said. It was the first time she'd used his first name. There's going to be video, she said. There were 400 phones in that room, and about 60 of them came up when your voice dropped. Somebody has it. Somebody's already selling it. Let them. You don't understand what I'm telling you. Ms. Sterling, he said it gently. I don't have anything they can take. I've got a rented house and an Explorer with 190,000 miles and a daughter who thinks I hung the moon. That's the whole inventory. What are they going to do to me? Victoria Sterling looked at him for a long, long moment. They're going to make you a symbol, she said. And then they're going to find out you're a person. Then she got in the car, and it pulled away, and Nathan Cole stood under the awning for a while with $1 million in pieces in his jacket pocket, and then he went and got his Explorer, and the valet grinned at him and said, "Booster seat safe, sir." And Nathan laughed for the first time in 5 hours. Miss Ruiz was asleep on the couch with the TV muted. She woke up when he came in, apologized 4 times for falling asleep, refused a ride, took the $40 and told him from the doorway that Lily had gone down at 9:15 without an argument, which Nathan knew immediately was a lie, because Lily had never in her life gone down at 9:15 without an argument. He locked the door. He hung up the jacket. He stood in the kitchen in the dark for a second with his hands on the counter. Then he went down the hall. Her door was open 4 inches, which was the deal. Open 4 inches, hall light on, because she was 9, and she'd never say she was scared, and he'd never make her. She was awake. "You're home late," she said to the ceiling. "It's 10:40. That's late. That's late for you. That's practically a nap for regular people." Nathan sat down on the edge of the bed. It creaked. It had creaked for 2 years, and he kept meaning to fix it, and never did. And at some point, he'd realized he didn't want to, because the creak was how he knew she'd rolled over. "How was the fancy party?" Lily said. "Fancy. Was there a chocolate fountain?" There was not a chocolate fountain. Then what was even the point? That's a fair question. She turned her head. In the 4 inches of hall light, he could see one eye and about a third of her face. "Did anybody notice your tie?" Nathan opened his mouth and found that he could not get any air behind it, because a woman he'd never met had noticed his tie, and a man he'd never met had noticed his daughter. And he'd stood in a room full of gold and glass and torn up more money than he would make in 12 years. And the entire time, the thing he'd been holding on to, the one thing, the only thing, was a 9-year-old sitting on a kitchen counter in planet pajamas going, "Come here." "Yeah," he said. "Somebody noticed." "Told you." "You did tell me." "Was it a lady?" "Go to sleep." "Dad." "It was a lady," Nathan said. "It was a very rich lady who thinks I'm rude." Lily considered this. "Are you rude?" "Apparently." "Good," she said, and rolled over, and the bed creaked. "Rude's better than fake. Fake people are the worst." Nathan sat there. "Where'd you hear that?" "You," Lily said, muffled. "You say it about the guys who work for you." "I say it about one guy who works for me." "You say it about him a lot." He sat there another minute. Then he leaned over and put his hand on her back and left it there the way he'd done since she was 2. And after a while her breathing changed, and he stood up as quietly as a man his size can stand up. At the door he stopped. He looked at the nightstand. He had not opened that drawer in 2 years. He had checked it once in a while in the middle of the night in the terrible hours, but he had not opened it. He'd slid it out 2 inches and looked at the corner of the envelope and slid it shut. He didn't know why he did it that night. He crouched down. He pulled the drawer out slow so it wouldn't stick. It was still there. Purple construction paper, a blue crayon rocket ship. 7-year-old handwriting, enormous and crooked and going downhill at the end of the line the way it always did. Mom. And underneath it, in smaller letters she'd made small on purpose, letters she'd tried to make look grown up. "It's okay if you're busy." Nathan Cole put his hand over his mouth. He knelt on his daughter's floor at 11 o'clock at night, with his hand over his mouth for a long time, and he did not make a sound because she was 4 feet away, and there is one thing a man in his position will not do, and that is let her hear it. Then he closed the drawer. Then he went out to the garage, and he sat on an overturned bucket next to a lawnmower he'd fixed instead of replaced, and he cried for 11 minutes, with his fist against his teeth, and at 11:19 p.m. he stopped and washed his face at the utility sink, and went to bed, and got up at 4:30. The video went up at 6:04 a.m. He didn't see it. He was making eggs. By 7:50, when he pulled up at the school, it had 200,000 views. He didn't know that either. What he knew was that Lily said bye, and slammed the door, and ran, and he sat in the pickup line for a second, like he always did, watching, until she got inside, which was a thing he'd done every single morning for 3 years and had never once skipped. By 9:15, it had 1 million. His phone started at 9:20. It was his XO. "Nathan." "Sir?" "Where are you?" "Building 40, sir. Why?" There was a pause on the line that Nathan had heard exactly twice before in his career, and both times somebody had died. "Come up to my office," the XO said. "Now." And Nathan, don't look at your phone on the way. Nathan looked at his phone on the way. The clip was 51 seconds. It was shot from about 20 feet over somebody's shoulder, and it caught the last part. Whitmore saying, "That girl gets $1 million, and it costs you nothing." And Nathan saying, "It costs everything." And the tearing and the pieces, and then the audio dropping out for a second and coming back on. "The regret isn't mine, Mr. Whitmore." The title of the video was, "Navy Dad Destroys Billionaire's $1 million Check." There were 9,000 comments. Nathan read 4 of them and put the phone in his pocket and did not take it out again for 6 hours. The XO's name was Commander Elise Barrett, and she had been a lieutenant when Nathan was an ensign and had once in the Gulf made him redo an inspection report at 2 a.m. because he'd rounded a number. She did not say hello. She turned her monitor around. "Is that you?" "Yes, ma'am." "Is that a real check?" It was. Barrett sat back. "Nathan," she said, "do you have any idea what my morning has been like?" "No, ma'am." "Public Affairs called me at 7. Regional called me at 7:40. At 8:15 I got a call from a congressional liaison, which is a phrase I have gone 19 years without hearing on a Thursday." She rubbed her eyes. "There is a 2-star in Norfolk right now watching a video of one of my lieutenants telling a major defense contributor to go home and tell his wife." Nathan felt the floor tilt. "Ma'am?" "Whitmore Capital has money in 3 yards on this coast," Barrett said. "Not his money, his fund's money. But that's a distinction nobody's going to make in a headline." "I was off duty," Nathan said. "I was in a suit. I never said the word Navy." "You didn't have to. There's a graphic on the video that says U.S. Navy with a little flag on it." She turned the monitor back around. "That's the problem with symbols, Lieutenant. Somebody else picks them." Nathan closed his eyes. That was the second time in 12 hours somebody had said that word at him. "What happens now?" he said. "Now..." Barrett laced her fingers. "Now officially nothing. You were off duty at a charity event in civilian clothes having a private conversation. There's no offense. I've already had legal look at it. You didn't do anything wrong." But I've been doing this 19 years, and nothing has never once been what happens." She looked at him for a while. "Nathan, off the record, sit down." He sat down. "What was in the check?" she said. "Ma'am?" "I read faces for a living. There's a version of that video where a man tears up money because he's proud and it's a great video and the internet loves it, and it's not what I watched." She tapped the desk once. "I watched a man protect something." "What was in the check?" Nathan looked at his hands. "It was a trust," he said. "For my daughter." Barrett went very still. "Alan Whitmore," Nathan said, "is the man my wife left me for. He wanted visitation. For her. He wanted to buy his way to a weekend a month." Commander Elise Barrett, who had made him redo an inspection report at 2 a.m. over a rounded number, put her hand over her mouth for a second. Then she said, "Get out of my office." "Ma'am, go do your job. Don't read the comments. Don't answer your phone unless it's me, your kid, or Hale." She was already reaching for her own phone. "And Nathan, if anybody calls you about a statement, an interview, a book, a podcast, or a movie, you say no comment and you hang up. You do not explain yourself. The second you explain yourself, you're in it." "Yes, ma'am." "Nathan." He stopped at the door. "For what it's worth." Barrett said, "I've got a daughter." "Yes, ma'am." "That was the right call," she said. "And it's going to cost you. And it was still the right call. And I want you to hear an officer say it out loud once before the world starts telling you otherwise." Victoria called at 4:40. He didn't know it was her. He picked up because it wasn't a number he recognized, and he'd spent 3 years picking up unrecognized numbers in case it was the school. "Lieutenant Cole." He stopped in the parking lot. "How'd you get this number?" "I own a company that owns a company that does background verification for federal contractors," Victoria said. "Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to be horrified in private later?" "Later's fine." Good. Have you eaten? Nathan actually laughed. It came out of him sideways. I'm sorry, what? It's a simple question. Ms. Sterling, I have had roughly the worst 9 hours of my professional life, which is why I'm asking if you've eaten, Victoria said. I've had worse days than this. Not many, but a few. And the thing I've learned is that on those days you don't eat, and then at 9 o'clock at night you make a decision you can't take back because your blood sugar's at 40, and you think you're being brave. A pause. So, have you eaten? Nathan stood in the parking lot with his keys in his hand. No, he said. Then here's what's going to happen. You're going to go get your daughter. You're going to take her wherever she wants, and I want to be clear, wherever she wants. Not wherever's healthy. This is not a night for broccoli. And at 8 o'clock, after she's down, you're going to call me back on this number, and I'm going to tell you the thing you asked me in the driveway. Nathan's grip tightened on the keys. The 30 years. Yes. Why? Because 11 million people watched you make the single best decision of your life, Victoria said. And by Sunday, about half of them are going to have decided you're a fool. And I'd rather you hear the other version first. Lily wanted the diner on Route 9. She always wanted the diner on Route 9. She wanted it because they let you put your own syrup on, and because the waitress Deb had once given her a free pie, an event that had occurred 2 years ago and had been referenced approximately 400 times since. 2 eggs bacon and a pancake, Lily told Deb. For dinner. It's a free country. Deb looked at Nathan. It's a free country, Nathan said. They ate. Lily talked about a girl named Priya who was being weird about a group project. Nathan listened and said the right things. And about 11 minutes in, he realized he'd heard none of it. And he made himself put both hands flat on the table and be there, which was a thing he'd taught himself in year 1 of doing this alone, and which usually worked. It didn't work, because a woman 2 booths down had her phone up. Nathan clocked it at 40 feet, the way he'd have clocked a small boat on a horizon. She wasn't even hiding it. She was holding it at chest height and angling it and looking at her friend was looking at Nathan, and then both of them were doing the thing where you look and look away and look. Dad? Yeah. Why is that lady taking a picture of us? Nathan turned back to his daughter. Here was the moment. He knew it going in. He'd known it since 9:20 that morning, and he'd spent the whole day building the sentence, and he still didn't have it. Something happened last night, he said. At the party. Lily put down her fork. Are you in trouble? No. Are you lying? No, Nathan said, and meant it, and she read him. She'd been reading him since she was 5. She was better at it than the Navy, and she picked her fork back up. Okay, she said. What happened? A man offered me some money, Nathan said. A lot of money, and I said no, and somebody filmed it, and now a lot of people have seen it. How much money? Enough. Dad. $1 million. Lily's mouth opened. $1 million, Dad. She sat forward. Do you know what that is? I've got a rough idea. That's a house. That's like 9 houses. That's college. She stopped. Her face changed. She was 9 years old, and she was doing math, and Nathan watched with a kind of despair the exact scene Victoria had described the night before, the second and a half, where a person turns into arithmetic. Wait, why'd you say no? Because of what he wanted for it. What'd he want? And there it was. Nathan looked at his daughter across a plate of eggs at a diner on Route 9, and he thought about a purple card in a drawer, and he understood with total clarity that he had maybe 4 seconds to decide the shape of the rest of her childhood. He wanted something that isn't for sale, he said. Lily watched him. Is it about Mom? She said. The whole diner went away. Why would you ask that? Because you got the face, Lily said. You get a face. I don't have a face. You have a face, Dad. You've had it my whole life. She said it without any heat at all, which was the worst part. She said it the way you'd say the sky's blue. It's fine. I'm not sad about it. I just know the face. Nathan sat there. Yeah, he said. It's about your mom. Lily nodded slowly. She looked down at her plate. She moved a piece of bacon about an inch to the left. Is she okay? She said. And Nathan Cole, who had spent 3 years, 4 months, and 12 days carrying a thing, so his daughter wouldn't have to discover that she had been carrying her half of it the entire time, quietly, in a drawer, without ever once asking him to help. I don't know, baby, he said. Okay. Lily, it's okay, she said. I was just checking. He called Victoria at 8:04. She picked up on the first ring, which surprised him. She down. She's down. Did she pick the diner? Nathan stopped with his hand on the garage door. How do you know about the diner? You have a 9-year-old and 190,000 miles on a Ford. Every man in America with that profile has a diner. A rustle on the line. Sit down, Lieutenant. He sat down on the bucket next to the lawnmower. My father's name was Gerald Sterling, Victoria said. You've never heard of him. That's the whole point of the story. Nathan didn't say anything. My mother's family had money? Real money. The boring old kind. The kind that doesn't have a name on a building because it doesn't have to. And my father was a man who fixed things. Literally. He had a machine shop. A pause. You'd have liked him. That's not a compliment, it's a warning. Victoria. Don't, she said. Don't be kind in the middle. I'll stop. He didn't say anything else. They divorced when I was 9, Victoria said. Same age. I did notice that last night, in case you were wondering. I noticed it standing 11 feet behind you, in a room full of people, and I have not stopped noticing it since. Nathan closed his eyes. My grandfather didn't want my father in the family, she said. Not after. He didn't want the machine shop showing up at Christmas. So he did what people like my grandfather do. He made an offer. It was structured. It was legal. There was no trick in it. There never is. He offered him money, Nathan said. He offered him a number, Victoria said, to sign away custody and go be somewhere else. The garage was very quiet. I was on the stairs, she said. That's a cliché. I know it's a cliché. It happens to be true. I was on the stairs in a nightgown at 10 o'clock at night, listening to my grandfather and my father in the front room, and I heard my grandfather say a number, and then I heard nothing for about a second and a half. Nathan put his hand over his eyes, and then I heard my father say, okay. Nobody spoke for a while. He came upstairs after, Victoria said, and he found me on the stairs, and he knew I'd heard because I was 9, not 4. And he crouched down and he put his hands on my shoulders, and he said, Vic, I'll be back for you. Victoria. He wasn't lying, she said. That's what I want you to understand. He wasn't lying, Nathan. He meant it. He meant it completely. That's the thing nobody tells you about men who take the check. They're not villains. They're not cold. They don't cackle. They mean it when they say they'll be back. And then a year goes by, and then 3, and then the meaning just kind of dries. Did he come back? He sent a card on my birthday for 6 years, Victoria said. Then 5 years. Then nothing. He died in 2011. I found out from a lawyer. I was in a meeting. Nathan sat on a bucket in a dark garage and did not trust himself to speak. I built $4 billion, Victoria said, for exactly one reason, so that no number would ever be big enough. So that if a man ever sat across from me and thought about it, thought about the arithmetic, did the same thing, the number would be a joke. And it worked. It absolutely worked. I have never in 30 years been offered a number I couldn't laugh at. And it turns out that when you make yourself unbuyable, she said, the only people who come near you are people trying to buy you. Every single one. Every dinner. Every date. Every board seat. Every man who said the right thing at the right party. Her voice did not shake. Nathan understood that this was a woman who had practiced not shaking. Nathan, I am 39 years old, and until last night I had never once seen a man look at a check and not do the arithmetic. Not once. Not in my whole life. I was starting to think it wasn't real. I was starting to think my father was just normal. That's what people are. That he'd done the only thing anybody does, and I'd built an empire out of being angry at gravity. Nathan opened his mouth. And then a man in a bad tie, Victoria said. Tore up 7 figures over a construction paper card in a drawer. How do you know about the card? Silence. You said it, Victoria said quietly. In the bar. You said it in front of 400 people, and you didn't even know you were saying it. Nathan put his face in his hand. That's what I meant, she said. 30 years. That's the whole thing. I wasn't being poetic. I was being precise. I've been looking for one piece of evidence for 30 years that a man can say no, and you had the bad luck to be it on a Wednesday. Nathan sat in the dark for a long moment. Victoria, he said, I have to tell you something. All right. I almost said yes. The line was very still. I stood there, Nathan said, and I looked at that check, and for about a second and a half I thought about braces. I thought about the water heater. I thought about her at 18 with a stack of schools she can't afford, and me doing the math on a lieutenant's pension across a kitchen table. And I thought about it, Victoria. I did the same thing. I'm not your evidence. I'm just a guy who did the arithmetic, and the arithmetic came out different. He heard her breathe. Nathan, she said, that's better. What? You think I wanted a man who didn't feel it? Her voice cracked one syllable once and she caught it. My father didn't feel it. That's what I heard on the stairs. A second and a half and then, okay. That's what a man sounds like when it doesn't cost him. She stopped. You felt it, and you did it anyway. That's not evidence, that's the whole thing. That's what I've been. She stopped. I'm going to hang up now, Victoria Sterling said. Wait. I'm going to hang up, she said, because I don't do this, and I'd like to not do it at you on a Thursday. Victoria. What? Nathan looked at the lawnmower he'd fixed instead of replaced. He came back on the stairs, he said. Your dad. He came up, and he crouched down, and he put his hands on your shoulders. Yes. He couldn't look at you from standing, Nathan said. That's a man who knew. The silence went on so long he thought the call had dropped. Then she said, Good night, Lieutenant. And it was gone. The certified letter came Saturday at 10:40 in the morning. Nathan signed for it on the porch in a t-shirt with a dish towel over his shoulder, while Lily was in the backyard trying to teach the neighbor's dog to sit. He opened it standing up. It was 4 pages. He only read the top of the first one. In the matter of the minor child, L. Cole petition for modification of custody. Petitioner, Danielle Whitmore. Nathan Cole read the last name 3 times. In the backyard, his daughter yelled, Dad! Dad! He did it! He sat! And Nathan folded the letter along its crease and put it in his back pocket and said, Yeah, show me, and walked out into the yard. He watched the dog sit 4 more times before he let himself think about it. That was the discipline of it. Lily had her hand out flat, and she was saying, Buster, Buster, look at me. In a voice that was 100% his own command voice run through a 9-year-old, and the dog was sitting, and Nathan stood in the grass with a court order folded in his back pocket and clapped every single time. Did you see? I saw. Did you see the second one? The second one, he did it before I said it. That's anticipation, Nathan said. That's advanced. That's what I said. He made her lunch. He watched her eat it. He asked about Priya and the group project, and she said Priya had apologized, and Nathan said good, and Lily said, not really, she apologized in the way where she's still mad. And Nathan said that was the most common kind, and Lily said, yeah, I know, like he'd told her the sky was blue again. At 1:15 she went to Emma's house down the street. At 1:17 Nathan sat down at the kitchen table and read all 4 pages. Then he read them again. Then he called a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Ruth Okonjo, and she'd handled his divorce for a flat fee that Nathan had always suspected was about 1/3 of what she should have charged, and she picked up on a Saturday, which told him something. Nathan Cole, she said. I was wondering when you'd call. You've seen it? I've seen the video. 11 million people have seen the video. My mother sent me the video. A pause. That's not why you're calling. No. Okay, Ruth said. Tell me. Petition for modification of custody, Nathan said. Filed Thursday. Petitioner Danielle Whitmore. Ruth Okonjo was quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Read me the grounds, she said. Material change in circumstances. Keep going. Petitioner has achieved stability of residence and finances. Nathan's voice was flat. Respondent's recent public conduct raises concerns regarding judgment and the minor child's emotional environment. There it is, Ruth said. There's what? That's the whole filing, Nathan. That one sentence. Everything else is wallpaper. He heard a chair move on her end. They filed Thursday. The video went up Thursday morning. You understand what that means? It means they were fast. It means they were ready, Ruth said. You don't draft a modification petition in 6 hours. That was written before the gala. That was sitting in a drawer next to the check. Nathan put his hand flat on the table. He said the money wasn't contingent. It wasn't. That's true. That's probably literally true, and his lawyers made sure of it. Ruth's voice was very even. The money was the door, Nathan. This is what's behind it. He offered you the easy version first. That's not a trick, that's actually I'll say something you won't like, that's almost polite. Polite? He gave you a chance to say yes to a check instead of a subpoena, Ruth said. In my business, that's manners. Nathan stood up. He walked to the sink. He stood there. Ruth, can they take her? No. Ruth. No, she said. Listen to me, because you're about to spend the weekend building a nightmare, and I want you to build the right one. No court in this state is taking a 9-year-old out of the sole physical custody of a fit, employed, decorated father who has had her for 3 years and handing her to a woman who declined custody in writing. That's not going to happen. That's not close. Nathan let out a breath. But, Ruth said, but they're not trying to take her. She said it slowly so he'd hear it. Nathan, they filed for modification. They're asking for visitation. They're asking for a schedule. And here's the ugly part, that's a reasonable ask. That's an ask a judge is inclined to grant, because the presumption in this state, and every state, is that a kid benefits from contact with both parents. Danielle doesn't have to be a good mother. She just has to be a mother who stopped being unavailable. She said no, Nathan said, in writing, your paper, your language. And that's the best fact we have, and I'm going to hit them with it until my arm falls off, Ruth said. And they're going to say she was in crisis. She was unwell. She's had 3 years of reflection. She's in therapy. She's in therapy. I'd bet the house. And here's a letter from the therapist, and Your Honor, people are allowed to get better. Nathan closed his eyes. And then what? And then, Ruth said, the judge looks at you. I've never missed a day. I know. 14 years, no marks, no incidents, I have never... Nathan. Ruth's voice dropped. 11 million people watched you tear up a college fund. The kitchen went completely silent. That's not... Nathan's hand tightened on the sink. That's not what that was. I know what it was. That was... I know what it was, Ruth said. I'm telling you what it looks like in 14-point font, in emotion. On the evening of the 8th, in a public venue, respondent was offered an irrevocable educational trust for the sole benefit of the minor child, structured with no conditions attached, and respondent physically destroyed the instrument in front of approximately 400 witnesses while raising his voice. I didn't raise my voice. You didn't, Ruth agreed. That's why they'll put it in, because you can't prove a negative and there's no audio for the first 40 seconds. Nathan turned around and leaned back against the counter and stared at his own kitchen. Ruth, he said. Did I? He stopped. Say it, Ruth said. Did I just hand it to them? Ruth Okonjo was quiet for a long moment. You handed them a bad afternoon, she said. That's all. It's a bad afternoon in a case we win. But Nathan, I've got to tell you the truth because you're paying me for the truth and not much else. They have unlimited money, and we have a flat fee. They can file, and file, and file. Motions discovery, a guardian ad litem, a custody evaluator psychological assessments. Every one of those is a Tuesday you take off work. Every one of those is a stranger in your living room asking your daughter how she feels about her father. How long can they do that? Forever, Ruth said simply. That's what the money buys, not the verdict, the duration. Nathan didn't say anything for a while. You still there? Ruth said. Yeah. What are you thinking? I'm thinking. Nathan said that he never wanted to win. No, Ruth said quietly. He wanted you tired. Victoria called at 6 p.m. and he didn't pick up. She called at 6:40 and he didn't pick up. At 7:15 the phone buzzed with a text and Nathan looked at it and it said, I know about the filing. Nathan stared at it for a full minute. Then he typed how and deleted it, and typed of course you do and deleted it, and finally called her and she picked up before the first ring finished, which meant she'd been holding it. You're not going to like how I know, Victoria said. I've had a long week. Surprise me. It's public record. My general counsel has a paralegal who runs a docket alert on my name and my associates' names. A pause. You became an associate of mine on Wednesday night in front of 400 people, Nathan. I didn't ask for that either. So you had a docket alert on me. I had a docket alert on me, Victoria said. You showed up in it. That's how this works now. That's what I tried to tell you under the awning. Nathan sat down on the front steps. Say the thing you want to say, he said. What? You've been sitting on it since Thursday. It's why you called twice, so say it. Victoria was quiet. I want to pay for your lawyer, she said. No. Nathan. No. You don't even know what I know exactly what you're offering, Nathan said. You're offering to buy me a firm, 12 associates, a partner who does this, and only this, a custody evaluator who's testified in 90 cases. You're offering to make it a fair fight. Yes. And what happens, Nathan said, when the man's lawyer stands up in front of a judge in 4 months and says, Your Honor, we'd like to enter into evidence the retainer agreement showing that Lieutenant Cole's representation is being funded by a billionaire he met at a gala 6 days after he refused a trust for his daughter on the stated grounds that he doesn't take rich people's money. Silence. You've thought about it, Victoria said. I've done nothing else since 1:15. That's not... She stopped, started again, and Nathan could hear it, could hear the CEO in her trying to force the door. Nathan, that's a rhetorical problem. That's not a legal problem. Judges don't care who pays. Judges are people. Judges are people who see funded litigation every single day. Not this judge, Nathan said. Not this county. It's a 2-courtroom courthouse, and the judge has a picture of her grandkids on the bench, and she's going to look at a Navy lieutenant with a billionaire's law firm behind him, and she is going to think about it, for a second and a half. The line was very quiet. That's cruel, Victoria said. That's accurate. Those aren't the same thing. Nathan closed his eyes. It was the second time she'd used his own sentence against him. Victoria, he said. You're not wrong. That's the part that's killing me. You are not wrong. You've got the thing that would fix it, and I'm sitting on a step saying no, and if I lose a Tuesday a month with my kid for 4 years because I wouldn't take your help, that's on me. I know that. Then take it. I can't. Why? And Nathan Cole, who had not raised his voice at a human being in 3 years, did not raise it now, but something came into it that hadn't been there. Because I told him it costs everything, he said. Nothing. I stood in that bar and I told a man that some things aren't for sale, and 11 million people heard me. And if I take your money 6 days later, then I didn't mean it. He was gripping the phone hard enough that his hand hurt. Then I was just negotiating. Then I was a guy holding out for a better offer, and my daughter grows up and she watches that video at 19 and she finds out that the whole thing, Victoria, was a price. He heard her breathing. So, no, he said. You don't get to buy this. Nobody does. That's the only thing I've got left that's actually mine. Victoria Sterling didn't say anything for 11 seconds. He counted. Then she said in a voice he had not heard from her before. Do you know what I would have given, she said, To hear my father say that? Nathan opened his mouth. Because he took it, she said. He took it, and my grandfather's lawyers built the exact same box you're standing in. It's for her, Gerald. It's structured, there's no trick in it. And he did the arithmetic, and he came out the other way. Her voice was absolutely steady, and Nathan had never heard anything less steady in his life. And you're sitting on a step in a rented house telling me no, and I want to reach through this phone and shake you, and I want to God. I want to stand next to you. Nathan couldn't speak. So, here's what I'm going to do, Victoria said. I'm going to stop offering. I'm going to sit on my hands. And it's going to be the hardest thing I've done in 9 years, because sitting on my hands is not a thing I know how to do. And you should understand that I'm doing it on purpose, and it is costing me. Victoria. And I'm going to ask for one thing instead. What? I want to meet her, Victoria said. Nathan's whole chest went tight. No. Nathan, absolutely not. Why? Because there's a filing on my kitchen table that says my judgment's compromised, Nathan said. And the single stupidest thing I could do right now is put my daughter in a room with the woman from the video. That's not why. It's a good enough why. It's a legal why, Victoria said. You gave me the legal why for the lawyer and I took it. This one isn't legal. Try again. Nathan sat on his step and stared at his own driveway. Because she's already lost one, he said. Silence. She was 6, Nathan said. She had a mother and then she didn't. And she's 9 now and she's fine. She's actually fine. She's the most okay person I've ever met. And I'm not going to walk somebody through that door who's going to be interesting and funny and pay attention to her for 6 weeks and then remember she owns 4,000 people. You think I'd leave? I think everybody leaves, Nathan said. I think that's just what people do, and I've made my peace with it for me. And I have not made my peace with it for her, and I never will. Victoria said very softly, That's the truest thing you've said. I know. That's also the exact sentence my father would have said to justify not coming back, she said. Word for word. She's better off. I'd only leave again. Nathan flinched. He actually flinched, sitting alone on a step. That's not fair. No, Victoria agreed. But it's accurate. They sat on the phone in silence for a while. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower started. Nathan, she said. I'm not going to argue you into it. I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to let you go, and you can decide, and whatever you decide, I'll live with. Okay. There's going to be a person in your living room, she said. Ruth told you. Guardian ad litem evaluator somebody. And they're going to ask your daughter who's in her life, and she's going to say, my dad and Miss Ruiz and Senior Chief Hale and Emma from down the street. And the other side is going to stand up and say, Your Honor, that's a small world for a 9-year-old, and my client can offer her a bigger one. Nathan didn't move. I'm not offering her a bigger world, Victoria said. God knows I've got one and it's not worth much. I'm offering to be a name on the list. Then she hung up. She didn't meet Lily for 11 days. That was Nathan's doing, and it was also not because on Monday morning, Commander Barrett called him back into her office and turned the monitor around again, and this time, it wasn't a video. It was a headline, Billionaire Victoria, Sterling's $91,000 gift to Navy Fund days after viral confrontation. Sources say she knelt at his feet. That's not what happened, Nathan said. I know it's not what happened. She picked up the pieces, ma'am. She was... Nathan. Barrett turned the monitor back. I don't need you to explain it to me. I need you to understand that we've now got a defense contributor, a defense-adjacent asset manager, a viral video, and a family court filing, and every one of those has a phone number for a reporter. She laced her fingers. There's a word for what you are right now. You're a situation. Am I being reassigned? No. Ma'am, you're not being reassigned. You're not being investigated. And there's no offense, and I've said that to 4 people above me, and I'll say it to 40. Barrett leaned forward. And I'm telling you, As somebody who likes you, none of that is protection. That's just the truth. Truth is slow, Lieutenant. Money's fast. Hale was waiting outside. He didn't say anything. He just fell in beside Nathan and walked with him across the lot, and after about 80 feet, he said, "Boyd's ramp got built Saturday." Nathan stopped. "They did it in a day," Hale said. 91,000 cleared Friday afternoon. And the fun chair damn near had a stroke. And then he called the contractor, and the contractor came Saturday morning, and they poured it Saturday morning. Hale's jaw was tight. The kid came out on it Sunday. His mom put it on Facebook. She wrote 3 sentences, and then she wrote sorry, and then she wrote it again. Nathan looked at the ground. "I'm not saying take her money," Hale said. "I know you. I know that face. I'm saying—" He stopped, started over. "Cole, I've been mad at you for 3 years. Nathan looked up. "You've been so good," Hale said. "You've been so damn good about it. You never said one word about that woman. Not one. 3 years, and I've never heard you say her name with any heat in it, and I thought that was strength." He shook his head. "It's not. You just decided the world was going to take things from you, and your job was to not make a sound while it did it. And that's not honor, brother. That's a guy holding his breath." "Marcus, she filed on you," Hale said, and his voice cracked open right there in the parking lot, 26 years, and a laugh you could hear through a bulkhead. "She left that baby, and now she filed on you, and you're standing here worried about how it looks if somebody helps you." "Yeah," Nathan said. "That's insane." "Yeah," Nathan said. "It is." The evaluator came on a Thursday. Her name was Dr. Pruitt, and she had a canvas bag and reading glasses on a chain, and she sat in Nathan's living room for 2 hours and 40 minutes and asked him questions in the pleasant tone of a woman who has been lied to professionally for 20 years. Then she asked to speak with Lily alone, and Nathan said of course, and went and stood in the garage and did not sit on the bucket because he was afraid if he sat down he wouldn't get up. It took 55 minutes. When Dr. Pruitt came out, she stood in the kitchen doorway and looked at him for a second longer than was comfortable. "Lieutenant, I'm not permitted to characterize." "I know." "The substance of my conversation with a minor." "I know." Dr. Pruitt put her glasses on top of her head. "She asked me a question," she said. "I'm allowed to tell you she asked me a question because it was about procedure." Nathan waited. "She asked me if the judge was going to make her say something bad about her mom," Dr. Pruitt said. "And I said, no, honey, nobody's going to make you say anything. And she said, okay, because I'm not going to." Nathan gripped the counter. "And then she said—" Dr. Pruitt stopped, took a breath. Nathan watched a woman who had done this for 20 years take a breath. She said, "And nobody's going to make my dad say anything bad about her either. He never has, not one time, and I've been listening." The kitchen was very quiet. "Lieutenant Cole," Dr. Pruitt said, "in 22 years, I've written 600 of these." Then she picked up her bag and left. The mediation was set for the 20th. Ruth called it a formality. They want to see your face, that's all they want to see if the face is tired, and told Nathan to wear a shirt with a collar and say nothing that wasn't a number. Danielle was there. He hadn't seen her in 3 years and 4 months. She'd cut her hair. That was the first thing, and it was a stupid thing. And it was the thing his brain grabbed onto and would not let go of for the entire 90 minutes. She sat across a table with a lawyer on either side of her, and Alan Whitmore was not there, which Ruth said afterward was the single most expensive decision anybody made all day. The lawyers talked for 40 minutes. Nathan said 4 things, and every one of them was a number. And then at the break, when the lawyers went out to the hall to do the part where they actually decided everything, Danielle stayed. And so did he. They sat across a conference table in total silence for about 20 seconds. "Your hair's different," Nathan said. Danielle laughed. It came out broken. 3 years, she said. "And that's the first thing. It's what I noticed." "You always noticed everything," she said. "That was—" She stopped. "God, I forgot how much I hated that. Nathan didn't answer. I saw the video, Danielle said. Everybody saw the video. Nathan, you want me to say I'm sorry? He said it evenly. I'm not sorry. He put a check on a bar with our daughter's name on it. I'd do it again on live television. I know, Danielle said. I told him not to. Nathan went still. I told him not to do it. Her hands were flat on the table and they were shaking. I told him, don't you dare. You don't know him. And Alan said everybody takes it, Danny. Everybody takes it. He's got a kid and a lieutenant's salary and he'll take it and it's for her, so where's the harm? And you said, I said okay, Danielle said. The room was silent. That's the answer to your question, she said. You want to know what I am? That's it. That's the whole thing. I knew exactly what you'd do, and I let him do it anyway, because a part of me wanted to see you take it. Her voice went to pieces on the last 3 words. Because if you took it, then I'm not a monster. If you took it, then everybody's got a number, and I'm just a woman who found hers first. Nathan sat there, and I watched it 40 times, Danielle said. I've watched that video 40 times, Nathan. I've watched it at 2 in the morning. I watched it on a plane over the Atlantic, and every single time I'm sitting there going, take it, please God, take it. She put her hand over her mouth. And you never do. Nathan looked at the woman he'd been married to for 11 years. You filed on me, he said. I know. You wrote that my judgment's compromised. You wrote that about me. You put it on paper with your name on it and a judge read it. I know. Why? Because it was the only way you'd have to be in a room with me, Danielle said. Nathan felt something in his chest crack all the way across. You could have called, he said. Danny, you could have called, any day, any of 1100 days. There's not 1 hour in 3 years I wouldn't have picked up. I couldn't. Why? Because you would have been kind, she screamed, and it wasn't loud. It came out in a whisper, which was somehow so much worse. You would have been kind to me, Nathan. You would have said, it's okay, Danny. Come see her, in that voice, and I would have had to live in a world where I did what I did to a man who's kind. Nathan couldn't breathe. So I made you the villain, she said. For 3 years. I told Alan you fought me. I told him you were bitter. I told everyone I know that you kept my daughter from me, and every time I said it out loud, it got a little more true, and I could get through the day. She wiped her face with the flat of her hand. And then you stood in that bar and you said one sentence and it all came down. Which sentence? She didn't want her, Danielle said. Nathan looked at the table. That's not true, Danielle said. That's the thing. It's not true, Nathan. I wanted her so much I couldn't breathe. I just wanted the other thing more for about 90 days. And by the time the 90 days were up, I'd already signed it. And there is no road back from that. There's no road. You don't get to say, actually, I've reconsidered about a child. You're saying it now. I'm saying it now with a lawyer, she said. Do you understand how much I hate that I'm saying it now with 2 lawyers in the hall because it's the only way I know how to do anything anymore? The clock on the wall clicked. What do you want? Nathan said. Not the filing, not the schedule. You, right now. What do you actually want? Danielle Whitmore looked up at him. I want to see her once, she said. Once. Supervised an hour in a room with a stranger taking notes, I don't care. And then I want you to tell me to go, and I'll go, and I won't file anything ever again. Why once? Because I need her to see my face, Danielle said. And no, it wasn't hers that was the problem. Nathan sat back. He sat there for a long, long time. Danny, he said, you know what she did on her 7th birthday? Don't. She made you a card. Nathan, it's in her drawer, he said. It says, it's okay if you're busy. Danielle Whitmore folded forward over a conference table and made a sound Nathan had never heard from a human being. He didn't reach across. He wanted to. He sat there with both hands flat, and he did not reach across, and afterward, for years, he would not be certain whether that was strength or the worst thing he ever did. Then he said, "Withdraw the filing." She looked up. "Withdraw it," Nathan said. "All of it. Today. Not amended, not stayed gone. And then call me. Not your lawyer. You. On the phone. Like a person. And you'll say yes." "I don't know," Nathan said. "That's the answer. I honestly don't know. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to hand her to a judge and let a stranger decide. She's not going to grow up knowing that a court made her mother see her." He leaned forward. "You want in? You come in the front. You knock. You take the chance that I say no, same as everybody else who's ever wanted something." Danielle stared at him with her whole face wrecked. "That's harder," she said. "Yeah," Nathan said. "It costs something. That's how you know it counts." Ruth called at 4:50 that afternoon. "Nathan," she said. They pulled it. He was in the driveway. He put his hand on the roof of the Explorer. All of it. Voluntary dismissal, no prejudice, filed at 4:20. Ruth sounded like a woman who had seen a thing she didn't have a file for. "Nathan, I've been doing this 19 years. Nobody withdraws. Whitmore's firm bills $1,100 an hour, and they just ate $100,000 of work and walked away on a Thursday. What in God's name did you say to that woman?" Nathan looked at his own front door. "I told her to knock," he said. Lily met Victoria on a Saturday. It was Lily's idea in the sense that all of Nathan's biggest decisions in that period were technically Lily's ideas, which was a thing he'd only understand later. "So the rich lady," Lily said over cereal. "What about her?" "Is she the one from the video?" Nathan set down the pan. "How do you know about the video, Dad?" Lily gave him a look of such profound pity that he actually felt it in his sternum. "I'm 9. Emma's brother has a phone. I've known since the second day. I just didn't say anything because you get the face." Nathan sat down slowly. "You watched it. 11 times. Lily." "It's good," Lily said with total sincerity. "You look really tall in it." Nathan put his face in his hands and laughed until his eyes stung. "Anyway," Lily said, "she's the one who picked up the pieces. At the end. You can see her. She's like right there, and everybody's just standing around, and she gets down on the floor in a fancy dress and picks it all up. She ate a spoonful. That's the good part. Nobody talks about that part. Everybody's all, ooh, the check. And the good part is the lady on the floor." Nathan lowered his hands. "Why's that the good part?" he said carefully. Lily shrugged. "Because you can't buy that," she said. And Nathan Cole sat in his kitchen and understood that he had been outmaneuvered comprehensively by a 9-year-old in planet pajamas. Victoria came at 2. She came in a car she drove herself, which Nathan had not expected, and she stood on his porch in jeans, holding absolutely nothing, which he had expected even less. "You didn't bring anything," he said. "No. Most people bring something." "I know," Victoria said. "I had 4 things in the car, a telescope, a book about stars, a thing from a museum, and it doesn't matter." Her jaw was tight. "I sat in your driveway for 6 minutes, and I put all of it back in the trunk." "Why?" Victoria Sterling looked at him. "Because I'm not going to be the first thing in her life that comes with a price tag," she said. "She's had enough of those." Nathan stood in his own doorway and could not think of one single word to say. Then from behind him a voice said, "Are you the lady from the floor?" Victoria looked past him. Lily was standing in the hallway with her arms crossed, doing an impression of a customs officer. "Yes," Victoria said. "Why'd you pick them up?" Nathan opened his mouth to run interference, and Victoria said, "Because he was going to want them later," without taking her eyes off Lily, and Lily's arms uncrossed about 2 inches. "That's what I said?" Lily said. "Dad, that's literally what I said." "You said it was the good part." "It is the good part." Victoria's face did something complicated. "You know about stars," she said. Lily's eyes narrowed. "Who told you that your father did? At the party?" Lily turned and looked at Nathan with an expression of pure betrayal. You told people. I told one person. Dad, that's my thing. I know. You can't just... Lily threw up her hands and turned back to Victoria. Okay, fine. What did he say? He said you told him they're all dead already, Victoria said. And the light just didn't get the message yet. Lily went completely still. Yeah, she said. So I've thought about it every day for 2 weeks, Victoria said. And Lily Cole, 9 years old, arms crossed, standing guard in her own hallway, looked up at a billionaire in her doorway for about 4 seconds. Then she said, Do you want to see my chart? And she turned and walked down the hall and did not look back to see if she was being followed, which was, Nathan knew, the highest honor available in that house. Victoria didn't move. Nathan looked over and found that Victoria Sterling was standing in his doorway with her hand pressed flat against the frame, holding onto it, and her eyes were absolutely full. Hey, he said quietly. I'm fine. Victoria, I've closed a $400 million deal in Tokyo on 9 hours of sleep, she said, and I cannot make my legs work. Nathan stepped aside. She's already gone, he said. That's how it works here. You've got about 11 seconds before she yells. Are you coming or what? Lily yelled. Victoria Sterling laughed, the real one, the one out of the locked drawer, and wiped her face with the back of her wrist and walked into the house. The chart was 4 feet of butcher paper taped to the back of Lily's bedroom door, and it had 106 stars on it, and every one of them had a name that was not its real name. That's Gary, Lily said. Gary. He's a red giant. He used to be regular, but he got big, and now he's kind of dramatic about it. Kind of dramatic about it? Victoria repeated. He's fine. He's just going through something. Nathan stood in the doorway with a dish towel over his shoulder and did not say a word for 40 minutes. He'd expected he didn't know what he'd expected. Politeness. The thing adults do where they crouch down and make their voice go up half an octave and say, Wow, that's amazing. Sweetie, in a tone that a 9-year-old clocks in under 2 seconds. Victoria Sterling sat down on the floor with her back against the bed and asked which one was the oldest. That one? Lily said. Ruth. Why Ruth? Because that's my dad's lawyer's name and she seems old. Lily, Nathan said. She said it. She said, I've been doing this 19 years like 4 times. Victoria didn't laugh. That was the thing Nathan noticed standing in the door. She didn't laugh at the funny part because the funny part wasn't the point, and she'd figured that out faster than most people figured out where the bathroom was. What's Ruth's story? Victoria said. Lily looked at her sideways. Testing. She's got a planet, Lily said. But it's not a good one. It's too close. It's just rock, and it's on fire all the time, and nothing lives there. That sounds bad. It's not bad, Lily said. She still got it. That's the thing. It's a terrible planet, and it's hers, and she's been holding on to it for like 9 billion years. Victoria sat on the floor of a 9-year-old's bedroom and looked at a piece of butcher paper for a long moment. Yeah, she said. Okay. What? Nothing, Victoria said. That's a good one is all. Danielle called on a Tuesday. Nathan was in the garage. He saw the number and stood there with the phone in his hand while it rang 3 times, and on the 4th he answered it and said nothing. It's me, she said. I know. There's nobody on this call. It's just me. I'm in my car. Okay, Danielle Whitmore breathed out. I've been trying to do this for 11 days, she said. I've picked up the phone probably 40 times. I got as far as ringing twice on Sunday. I know, Nathan said. I saw. You saw. You called at 9:40 at night and hung up after 2 rings. I sat here and looked at it for an hour. Why didn't you call back? Because I told you to knock, Nathan said. You don't get to knock and run. Silence. That's fair, Danielle said. So knock. He heard her swallow. He heard a turn signal going somewhere, which meant she was sitting in a parked car, with the key on which meant she'd been sitting in it a while. Nathan, can I see her? Why? Don't do that. Don't make me. I'm not making you do anything, Nathan said. I asked a question. It's the same question I asked in the room, and you gave me an answer I believed. So give it to me again without the lawyers in the hall. Because I want her to see my face, Danielle said, and know it wasn't hers that was the problem. Nathan closed his eyes. Okay, he said. What? I said okay. Nathan. There's rules, he said. Anything. Don't say anything. You don't know what they are yet. He sat down on the bucket. 1. It's here. In this house, at this table, in my kitchen. Not a restaurant, not a park, not a room with a stranger taking notes. She's not going to remember meeting her mother in a facility. Okay. 2. An hour. And I'm in the house the whole time. Not the room. The house. Okay. 3. Nathan's voice changed. You don't promise her anything. Danielle didn't answer. You hear me? Not one thing. Not, I'll call you. Not, we'll do this again. Not, I'll be at your birthday. You don't say a single sentence with a future in it unless you are prepared to bleed for it, because she will hold on to it. Danny, she will hold on to it for years. I have watched her do it. Nathan. She has a card in a drawer. Nathan. He stopped. I heard you, Danielle said. I heard you the first time. He put his hand over his eyes. Saturday, he said. 2 o'clock. Saturday. And Danny. He waited until he was sure his voice would hold. If you're going to change your mind, change it Friday. Not Saturday morning, Friday. Because if I tell her and you don't come, I will never speak to you again as long as I live, and I mean that in a way I've never meant anything. I'll be there, Danielle said. Friday, Nathan said, and hung up and sat in the dark for 20 minutes. He told Lily on Wednesday at the table because there was no good way, and he'd been through 11 bad ones. Your mom wants to come see you Saturday. Lily didn't move. She had a fork halfway to her mouth, and she put it down very carefully on the edge of the plate, and she looked at the table. Okay, she said. Lily. Okay, she said again. You can say no. She looked up. I can. Yes. Like actually, or like the thing where you say I can and then you're sad. Actually, Nathan said. Right now. This second. You say no, and I call her tonight, and it's over, and I will never bring it up again, and I will never once look at you funny about it. I swear to God. Lily studied him with an intensity that would have been comical on any other face. You'd really do that, she said. I'd do it before dessert. She sat there. What's she like now? Lily said. I don't know. Dad, I honestly don't know, kid. I've seen her once in 3 years and she cut her hair. Lily nodded slowly like this was useful data. Is she coming because of the video? Nathan's chest went tight. Part of it, he said. So if you'd taken the money, Lily. I'm just asking. If I'd taken the money, Nathan said, she'd have been at your school in October, and you'd have had a mom on paper and a lawyer's schedule and a weekend a month with a stranger, and everybody would have called it a happy ending. But she'd have come because a check said so. Lily picked her fork back up and put it down again. Yeah, no, she said. That's worse. Yeah, that's a lot worse, Dad. I know. She was quiet for a long time. Nathan let her be. That was the hardest thing he did that entire year, sitting at a table across from his own daughter and not filling the silence with anything, because he'd learned somewhere around year 2 that Lily's silences weren't holes, they were work, and every time he filled one, he was doing the work for her. 2 o'clock, she said finally. 2 o'clock. Can Victoria come? Nathan blinked. What? Not in it, Lily said, exasperated. Not like, obviously not, that'd be insane. I mean, like after. Like at 4. So there's a thing after. Nathan sat there. Why? He said quietly. Lily shrugged with one shoulder. So the day doesn't end on it, she said. Nathan Cole went out to the garage and sat on a bucket and put his fist against his teeth, and it took a lot longer than 11 minutes. He called Victoria at 9. "Saturday at 4, he said. "Can you be here?" "Yes." "You don't want to know." "Nathan?" Victoria said. "Yes." He stood in his kitchen. "Her mother's coming at 2, he said. "It's an hour. It's the first time in 3 years and 4 months. Victoria was quiet. "Whose idea was 4 o'clock?" she said. "Hers. She asked for me. She said, so the day doesn't end on it." He heard Victoria Sterling put the phone down on something. He heard faintly about 6 seconds of nothing. Then she picked it up. "I have a board meeting Saturday," she said. "It's been on the calendar since March. 11 people are flying in." "Victoria, I'm telling you so you understand what I'm about to say, and don't make it small later." Her voice was perfectly level. "I'll be there at 4. You don't have to." "Nathan," she stopped him cold. "I have spent 30 years being the person who takes the meeting. Let me be the other thing once." Danielle came at 1:52. Nathan watched her sit in her car in front of his house for 8 minutes. He didn't go out. He stood at the window with a dish towel in his hands and did not go out because she had to walk up that driveway herself. All of it, every step, and he understood that with a clarity that frightened him. At 2 o'clock exactly, she knocked. He opened the door. She'd dressed down. That was the first thing she'd dressed down deliberately. No jewelry, nothing. And Nathan understood that a woman with 4 houses had stood in a closet that morning trying to figure out how to look like she hadn't left. "Hi," she said. "She's in the kitchen." Danielle nodded. Her hands were shaking so badly she'd put them in her pockets. "Nathan, don't say it to me," he said. "Don't spend it on me. You've got an hour." He stepped aside. He heard the whole thing from the garage. Not the words, the shape. He heard a chair scrape. He heard his daughter say, "Hi." Then nothing for a long time. Then faintly a sound that he had to walk to the far wall of the garage to stop hearing. Then later. 20 minutes. Maybe he heard Lily's voice going. That specific runaway cadence she got when she was explaining something she cared about, and Nathan stood with both hands on the workbench and realized she was doing the chart. She was doing the chart for her mother. At 3:04 he came in. Danielle was standing. Her face was destroyed, and she had it under a kind of control that Nathan recognized because it was his own. The thing where you hold your face like a plate you're carrying across a room. Lily was at the table. "Say goodbye," Nathan said. "Bye," Lily said. And Danielle Whitmore looked at her daughter and opened her mouth, and Nathan saw it coming, saw the sentence forming, saw, "I'll call you," or "see you soon," or "next time," rise up in her throat like water, and she closed her mouth. She closed her mouth and swallowed it and said, "Bye." Nothing else. Nathan walked her out. At the door she stopped and stood there with her back to him for a second. "She said something," Danielle said. "You don't have to tell me." She said, "You can come back if you want, but you have to want to." Danielle's shoulders were going. 9 years old, Nathan. "Yeah, she's not yours," Danielle said. "I want you to know I know that. She's not yours because you got her. She's yours because you stayed, and that's a different thing. And there's not a court in this country that could have given her to me, and I've known it since the day I signed." Nathan didn't answer. "Can I come back?" she said. "Do you want to?" Danielle. Whitmore stood on his porch and cried in complete silence for about 8 seconds. "Yeah," she said. "Then call," Nathan said. "Like a person. And Danny, call her. Not me. She's got a phone in a drawer that I turn on for emergencies. I'll turn it on." He went back in. Lily was still at the table. She hadn't moved. "Hey," he said. "Hey. You want to talk about it?" "No." "Okay." He started making a sandwich she hadn't asked for, because it was the only thing his hands knew how to do, and he'd gotten about as far as the bread when Lily said to the table, "She's littler than I remembered." Nathan put down the knife. "Yeah," he said. "In my head, she's like tall." Lily's voice was very small and very steady. "Like taller than you." "You were 6. "Yeah, He came and sat down. She kept looking at my hands, Lily said. It was weird. She'd look at my face and then she'd look at my hands, like 11 times. Because you had little ones, Nathan said. Last she saw. Lily thought about it. Oh, she said. And then without any warning at all, his daughter got up and came around the table and climbed into his lap the way she hadn't done since she was 7, folded up too big for it, elbows everywhere, and put her face in his shirt. Nathan Cole held on to her and did not say one word. She cried for about 4 minutes. Then she sat up and wiped her face with the heel of her hand and said in a completely normal voice, "What time is it?" 3:40. Okay, Lily said. Is she coming? She's coming. Because if she doesn't come, she's coming, Lily. At 3:58, a car pulled into the driveway. Lily was at the window before Nathan even heard it, and Nathan watched his daughter's whole back go loose, one motion, shoulders to heels. The tension just walking out of her, and understood something that put a hole in his chest. She'd been standing there since 3:40. Victoria came up the walk in a suit. Nathan opened the door, and she was still wearing a suit. The actual thing. The kind you wear to a room with 11 people who flew in, and she had a garment bag over her shoulder, and her hair was coming out of whatever it had been doing that morning. I didn't have time to change, she said. I'm sorry. I got in the car at 3:20. You left. I left. Victoria, you left a board meeting. I left a board meeting, she agreed. In the middle. Nathan, if you make me say what time it was, I'm going to be very embarrassed. What time was it? It was at 3:20, Victoria said. Of a meeting that ends at 5. Lily said from behind him, Did you get in trouble? Victoria looked past Nathan at the kid in the hallway. A little, she said. Are you going to get fired? No. Why not? Because I own it, Victoria said. Lily considered this with great seriousness. That's cheating, she said. That's the only good part, Victoria said, and Lily laughed, a real one, a startled one, the first sound out of her since her mother's car left, and turned and ran into the kitchen and yelled something about a thing she'd drawn on Thursday. Victoria didn't move. She stood in the doorway with a garment bag over her shoulder and looked at Nathan, and Nathan looked at her, and neither one of them said anything for about 4 seconds. How was it? Victoria said. It was bad. How bad? She sat in my lap, Nathan said. She hasn't done that since she was 7. Victoria's jaw went tight. Nathan. Don't, he said. Don't be kind in the middle. I'll stop. She almost smiled. That's mine, she said. I know. I stole it. She put the garment bag down on the floor of his hallway, which was, Nathan thought later, the single most expensive thing that had ever touched that carpet, and she never picked it up again all night. Nathan, she said quietly, can I ask you something that's none of my business? That's usually the good ones. When she left, today, Victoria's voice was careful. Did she promise anything? No. Victoria's eyes closed. She had it, Nathan said. It was right there. I watched it come all the way up, and I watched her put it back down, and it was the hardest thing I've ever seen a person do, and it took about 1.5 seconds. Victoria Sterling stood in a hallway with her hand over her mouth. That's good? She said, muffled. Nathan, that's so much better than what I know. That's the whole... I know, he said. Are you two coming? Lily yelled. They went. The 3 of them ate at his kitchen table at 4:30 in the afternoon because Lily declared it dinner and nobody had the standing to argue. Victoria in a $4,000 suit with the jacket over the back of the chair eating spaghetti out of a bowl that had a chip in it. Lily talked for 1 hour and 10 minutes straight. She talked about Gary the Red Giant and Priya and the group project and the neighbor's dog and a kid named Devin who'd said something insane about black holes at recess, and she did not say one single word about the woman who'd sat in that chair at 2 o'clock. And Nathan understood exactly what she was doing, because he'd been doing it himself for 3 years. At 6:40, Victoria said, Can I say something? Lily stopped mid-sentence. Sure. You did a hard thing today, Victoria said. Lily's face shut like a door. I'm not going to ask about it, Victoria said. I'm not going to ask you one question. I just want to say I know you did it, and then I'm going to stop talking, and you can go back to Devon. Lily sat there. Okay, she said. Okay. Devon's an idiot, Lily said, and picked it right back up. Nathan looked across his own kitchen table at Victoria Sterling, and something in him came apart very quietly and did not go back the way it had been. At 9, Lily went down without an argument, which was the first time in her life she had ever done it. Nathan came back down the hall. Victoria was at the sink. She'd rolled her sleeves, and she was doing his dishes badly in a way that suggested a woman who had not personally washed a dish since approximately 2009. You don't have to do that. I know. There's a machine. I know that too, Victoria said and kept doing it. Nathan leaned against the counter. How much did that meeting cost you? He said. Don't. Victoria. She turned the water off. There's a proxy fight, she said. It's been building since spring. 4 of them want me to spin off the asset management arm and take the money and go be a foundation. And I said no in March. And at 3:20 today, I stood up in the middle of Ellis Rourke's presentation and walked out of the room. Nathan didn't move. They'll use it, he said. They'll use it. How bad? 11 people watched the founder leave a board meeting to go to a spaghetti dinner, Victoria said. It's the best gift I've given them in 9 years. Then why'd you do it? Victoria Sterling stood at his sink with her hands in the water and did not turn around. Because he crouched down, she said. Nathan went completely still. My father, she said. On the stairs. You said it, that's a man who knew. And I've thought about it every day for a month, and Nathan, here's the thing. Her voice was absolutely steady. He knew, and he did it anyway. He crouched down and looked me in the eye and knew exactly what he was doing and took the money, and the knowing didn't stop him. It just made it polite. Victoria, so knowing isn't worth anything, she said. Feeling it isn't worth anything. I've had 30 years of men who felt terrible while they did the arithmetic. She pulled her hands out of the water and turned around, and her eyes were red. At 3:19 today, I was in that room, and I did the math. I did the whole thing, the proxy, the 4 of them, 9 years of my life. It took about a second and a half. Nathan couldn't breathe. And then I thought there's a 9-year-old standing at a window, Victoria said. And she asked for me by name. And I've been waiting my entire life for one person to walk out of the room for me, and nobody ever did. And I am not going to sit at a table on a Saturday and be the 5th adult who didn't. The kitchen was so quiet, Nathan could hear the tap dripping. So, no, Victoria said. You don't get to ask what it cost. That's the whole point. It's supposed to cost. Nathan Cole crossed his kitchen and did not touch her. He stood about a foot away with his hands at his sides and said, Say it again. Say what? The last part. Victoria looked up at him. It's supposed to cost, she said. And Nathan said, yeah. And then he said very quietly, 30 years is a long time to wait for a spaghetti dinner. Victoria Sterling laughed and cried at the same time and hit him in the chest with the flat of her hand hard and left it there. She lost the proxy fight on a Thursday in November. Not the whole thing. That was the part nobody understood, including Nathan, until she explained it to him twice. They got 2 seats, Victoria said. Out of how many? Maybe 9. So you won. Nathan. She was sitting on his front steps in a coat that cost more than his mortgage, drinking coffee out of a mug that said World's Okayest Dad, which Lily had given him ironically 2 Christmases ago, and which had become by pure attrition the only mug in the house anybody wanted. I've never lost a seat. In 9 years. Not one. And now you've lost 2. Now I've lost 2. Because of a spaghetti dinner. Because of a spaghetti dinner, Victoria said and drank her coffee. Nathan sat down next to her. You want me to say I'm sorry? God, no. Good, he said. I'm not. Victoria laughed into the mug. Ellis Rourke asked me about it, she said. In the meeting, in front of everybody. He stood up with his little folder and he said, "Victoria, on the 8th of the month you left this room at 3:20 in the afternoon and several of us would like to understand the nature of the emergency." "What'd you say?" "I said there wasn't one." Nathan turned his head. "You said there wasn't an emergency." "I said there wasn't an emergency," Victoria said. "I said Ellis. Nobody was sick. Nobody was dying. There was no crisis. I left because I told a 9-year-old I'd be somewhere at 4, and I intended to be there at 4. Victoria. "And Ellis said, 'That's not a reason.'" She was very still. "And I said, 'No, it's a promise. And I understand that the distinction is unfamiliar to you, and that's why you're going to get 2 seats today, and that's fine. Take them." Nathan sat on his own front step with his hands hanging between his knees. "That's the most expensive sentence in American business history," he said. "Probably. You could have lied. You could have said your mother was in the hospital, and nobody would have asked one more question." "I know." "Why didn't you—" Victoria Sterling looked out at his street, the Explorer, with the cracked bumper, the neighbor's dog, a basketball hoop 3 houses down, with no net on it. "Because Lily was going to ask me how the meeting went," she said. "And I've made a rule about her. It's the only rule I've got left." "What's the rule?" "I don't say anything to that kid I couldn't say to her at 19. Nathan didn't answer for a while. "That's a hell of a rule," he said finally. "It's a terrible rule," Victoria said. "Do you have any idea how much of my life is now unavailable to me? I can't do the thing. I can't do any of the things. I sat in a room last week and watched a man lie to me about a revenue number, and I knew he was lying, and I couldn't do the thing I usually do because I kept thinking, what if she asks? So what did you do?" "I told him I knew," Victoria said, "straight out, in the room. And he almost had a heart attack, and then he told me the real number, and it was worse than I thought, and we fixed it in a week instead of a quarter." She looked genuinely aggrieved. "It worked, Nathan. That's the part that's ruining my life. It keeps working." Danielle called Lily on the 14th. Nathan turned the phone on at 6 and put it on the kitchen table and went and stood in the garage because he'd learned that year that the most important thing he did as a father was leave rooms. It rang at 6:04. He heard his daughter say, "Hello." Then he heard nothing for 50 minutes. When he came back in, Lily was lying on the floor with her feet up on a chair and the phone on her chest staring at the ceiling. "How was it?" he said. "Weird." "Bad weird." "No." Lily thought about it. "Just weird. She doesn't know anything about me." Nathan sat down on the floor next to her, which took him a second because he was 38 and his knees had opinions. "That's fair," he said. "She's got a lot to catch up on." "Yeah, but she kept guessing." Lily rolled her head over to look at him. Like she'd go, "You probably love horses." And I'm like, "I have never once in my life thought about a horse." And she'd go, "Oh." And then she'd guess something else. "That sounds hard." "It was so hard, Dad." Lily put both hands over her face. "It was so hard for like 40 minutes, and I kept going, why doesn't she just ask?" "Did you tell her that?" Lily was quiet. "Yeah," she said. "What did you say?" "I said you can just ask me stuff, I'll tell you." Nathan sat on his kitchen floor and looked at the ceiling. "And what did she say?" "She didn't say anything for a really long time," Lily said. "And then she asked what my favorite color was." "What did you tell her?" "I said it's not a color, it's a temperature," Lily said, sitting up suddenly urgent. "Because a star's color is just how hot it is, right? So if you say your favorite color is blue, what you're actually saying is your favorite temperature is like 30,000 Kelvin, which is insane. So I told her, mine is orange because orange is like a red giant that's chill about it." "How long did that take?" 9 minutes. "And what did she do?" Lily stopped. "She listened," she said. She looked down at the phone in her lap. "She didn't say anything the whole time," Lily said. "She just went, mm-hmm, and wait really and stuff, like a normal person." "That's good?" "Yeah." Lily's chin did something, and she got it back under control, which she'd learned from him, which was the thing he'd spend the rest of his life feeling complicated about. She's calling on Saturday. She say that or you say that? She said it. Nathan's whole body went tight. Lily. I know, Lily said. Dad, I know. I'm not. She waved a hand at the whole apparatus of it, 3 years of it, the drawer, the card. The time zones are weird. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to sit around. Okay. If she calls, she calls. Okay. Lily got up. She put the phone on the table. She got about 4 steps, and then she turned around. Dad? Yeah. If she doesn't call Saturday. Lily said, Will you tell me? Like actually tell me. Don't do the thing where you make it okay. Nathan Cole looked up at his daughter from the floor of his kitchen. Yeah, he said. I'll tell you. Okay, Lily said, and went to do her homework. Danielle called on Saturday. She called the Saturday after that, too. She missed one in January and called on Sunday and said, I'm sorry I should have called yesterday. I didn't have a good reason, I just didn't do it. And Lily reported this to Nathan afterward with the tone of a scientist reporting an anomaly. She said she didn't have a good reason. Huh. She could have just said something, Dad. She could have said she was on a plane. I'd never know. Yeah. Why didn't she? Nathan thought about a woman folded over a conference table, making a sound he'd never heard a human being make. Because she's trying, he said. Is that gonna last? And Nathan, who had spent 3 years handing his daughter the soft version of everything, took a breath and did the hardest thing he'd done since the check. I don't know, he said. Lily nodded. Yeah, she said. That's what I figured. And she went outside and taught the neighbor's dog to lie down, and Nathan stood at the window and understood that he had just told his 9-year-old the truth about the worst thing in her life, and she had taken it, and she was fine, and every single thing he'd believed about protecting her for 3 years had been at least half about protecting himself. The foundation opened in April. It wasn't the thing the magazine said it was. The magazine said Victoria Sterling had spun off $2 billion into a family services trust in the middle of a proxy war, which was true in the way a coroner's report is true. What it actually was, a building. One building 2 counties over from the base with a childcare wing that ran shifts, real shifts, 4:30 to 2200, because Victoria had asked Hale what time the Navy started, and Hale had told her, and she'd sat down in a chair and said, You're telling me these people work a schedule that no daycare in America accommodates? And Hale had said, Yes, ma'am. And she had said a word Nathan had never heard her say. Legal aid on the 2nd floor. 2 family lawyers full-time free. Ruth Okonjo ran it. I want to be very clear, Ruth had said in Nathan's kitchen holding the offer letter. I'm going to take it, but I want it on the record that I have serious concerns about a billionaire buying a legal aid clinic in a county where, Ruth. And I'm going to say that publicly every year at the fundraiser, Ruth. And if she ever calls me about a case, I'm going to tell her to get out of my office. She knows, Nathan said. That's why she picked you. Ruth Okonjo sat there for a second. Well, hell, she said. Now I've got nothing. They named it Gerald. Not on the building. Victoria wouldn't put it on the building. She said the whole point was that the man's name shouldn't be on anything, that he'd traded a daughter for the privilege of being nobody, and he'd earned it. But there's a room on the ground floor where people wait. It's got chairs and bad coffee and a window, and it's where parents sit when their kid's inside with a lawyer or an evaluator or a stranger with a canvas bag. There's a small brass plate by the door. It says, The Gerald Room. For the ones who came back. Lily picked the words. She was 10 by then. It should say something. She'd said at the kitchen table with a pencil. It doesn't have to say anything. Dad, it's a room. Rooms say stuff. Victoria had been sitting right there. She hadn't said a word in about 10 minutes, which by that point in their lives was a thing Nathan noticed the way you notice a change in an engine. Vic, Lily said. What's it supposed to be for? And Victoria Sterling had looked at a 10-year-old and said in a voice that barely made it out, It's for people who are about to walk into a room and do the hardest thing they've ever done. Lily wrote for about 40 seconds. Then she turned the paper around. Victoria read it and put her hand flat on the table and did not move for a long time. "He didn't come back," she said finally. "Yeah, but somebody will," Lily said. "That's the point, Vic. You can't name it after the ones who didn't. Then it's just a sad room." Nathan married her in October. There was no gala. There were no cameras, because Victoria Sterling had spent 9 months making herself so relentlessly boring to the press that they'd finally gone away. She'd done it deliberately, systematically, the way she did everything, giving interviews so tedious about childcare, shift schedules, that 3 separate outlets stopped calling. There were 41 people in Hale's backyard. Hale cooked. He cooked for 4 hours and told everyone within earshot that he had personally engineered the entire thing, which was, Nathan had to admit, not technically false. "I put his name on a card," Hale said, holding a beer to a group of people who had heard this story 11 times. "That's it. That's all I did. I put a man's name on a card for $200 a plate. Best money you ever spent," somebody said. "I didn't spend it," Hale said. "That's the thing. That's the beautiful thing. It was free." Lily walked Victoria down. That was Lily's idea, and she'd presented it to both of them at the kitchen table, like a lawyer, with reasons, 3 of them numbered. 1, she doesn't have a dad. "Lily," Nathan said. "Dad, she doesn't. Everybody's being weird about it, and she's the only one who's not being weird about it." Lily didn't even look up. 2, if I'm on your side, it's like I'm giving her to you, and that's insane because she's not a thing. 3, she stopped. 3 what? Victoria said. Lily shrugged with one shoulder, which was the thing she did when it mattered most. 3, somebody should walk you in, she said. Nobody ever walked you in. Victoria Sterling put her hand over her mouth at a kitchen table for what Nathan estimated was the 4th time that year, which was given where she'd started roughly a 400% increase. "Okay," she said. Danielle wasn't there. She'd asked. That was the thing. She'd called on the phone like a person in August and said, "I'm not asking to come. I want you to know that. I'm calling to tell you I thought about asking, and I decided not to." "Why are you telling me?" "Because you'd have found out I thought about it," Danielle said. "You find out everything, and I'd rather you heard it from me." Nathan stood in his kitchen. "Danny?" "Don't be kind," she said. "I'm serious, Nathan. Do not be kind to me right now. I'm barely holding this." "Okay." "Is she good?" Danielle said. "Victoria, is she good to her?" And Nathan Cole told his ex-wife the truth. "She left a board meeting," he said. There was a long silence on the line. "Yeah," Danielle said. "Okay." Then she said, "Tell Lily I'll call Saturday," and hung up. She called Saturday. She called almost every Saturday for 2 years, and then it went to every other, and then it settled at about twice a month, and it has held there ever since. Nathan doesn't know if it's enough. Lily doesn't seem to think it's a question with an answer. What he knows is this: in the spring of the following year, he opened the drawer of his daughter's nightstand while looking for a phone charger, and the card was gone. He stood in her room with his heart going like a hammer. He found it that night on the refrigerator, held up with a magnet shaped like Saturn. It had been opened. Somebody had opened it, and there was new handwriting inside. 11-year-old handwriting, small and level and going straight across the line. "I'm not busy." Nathan Cole stood in his kitchen at 11 o'clock at night and looked at it for a long, long time. Then he went into his closet and he took a jacket off a hanger, a suit jacket he had not worn in 2 years. The one Lily had said made him look like a guy who fixes boats, and he reached into the inside pocket. The pieces were still there. He'd never taken them out. He'd hung the jacket up on the 9th of the month 2 years ago, and he had never once put his hand in that pocket, and they had sat there against the fabric the entire time, like something with a pulse. He carried them out to the kitchen and put them on the table. Victoria came down at midnight and found him sitting there. "Hey." "Hey." She looked at the table. 8 or 9 pieces of paper gray with age, the number still legible across 2 of them. She sat down. "You kept them," she said. "You told me to." "I told you that you'd want to know it happened." "Yeah, Nathan said. You were right. Victoria touched one of the pieces with one finger and didn't pick it up. Do you know what I thought? She said, standing behind you 11 feet back, before I knew your name. What? I thought he's going to take it. She said it evenly. I want you to know that. Nathan, I stood there, and I watched a man in a bad tie holding $1 million over a bar, and I thought, here it comes. Here's the second and a half. Here's the seam. She looked up. I'd already started to leave. I'd turned. I was walking away because I'd seen it 400 times, and I didn't want to see it again, and I got about 2 steps. Nathan didn't move. And then I heard it, Victoria said. Heard what? The tearing, she said. She put her hand flat on the table next to the pieces. It's such a small sound, she said. That's what nobody in that video understands. Everybody thinks it's a statement. It's not. It's about as loud as somebody turning a page. I heard a page turn, and I turned around, and my entire life was different, and it took less than a second, and you didn't even know I was there. Nathan looked at his wife across a kitchen table with a chip in it. Victoria, he said. I have to tell you something, and I've been sitting here 2 hours trying to figure out how. All right. I almost didn't go. To the gala. To the garage, Nathan said. That night. After. When you told me the thing about the stairs and I sat on that bucket. He rubbed his face. I almost didn't call you back. I had the phone in my hand at 7:58, and I put it face down on the counter, and I stood there because I thought she's going to be another person who's interesting for 6 weeks. And I've got a kid who's already had one of those. What changed your mind? Nothing, Nathan said. That's the whole thing. Nothing changed my mind. I just picked it up anyway. Victoria was quiet. That's what it is, she said. What? That's what it is, Nathan. That's the whole thing. That's what I spent 30 years looking for, and I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be a moment. Her voice went. It's not a moment. It's a guy picking up a phone at 8:04 when he didn't want to. It's a woman standing up at 3:20. It's a woman standing up at 3:20. It's a 9-year-old saying 2 o'clock. Yes. It's a card on a refrigerator. Victoria Sterling looked at the refrigerator at a purple piece of construction paper with a blue crayon rocket and 11-year-old handwriting held up by a magnet shaped like Saturn. Yes, she said. They sat there. What do we do with these? She said, finally touching the pieces. Nathan thought about it. Nothing, he said. That's what they're for. Lily Cole is 19 now. She's at a school she got into on her own on a scholarship she applied for without telling anybody, which caused the single largest fight in the history of that house and which Nathan lost in under 4 minutes. You could have asked, he'd said. For what? Lily, there's money now. You know there's money now. You didn't have to. Dad. She'd looked at him across the kitchen table with a face he'd been reading for 19 years. You tore up $1 million. That's not, you tore up $1 million, Lily said, so that nobody could ever say I got anything from somebody who didn't want me. And now you want me to take a check. Nathan had opened his mouth. That's what I thought, Lily said and went upstairs. She's seen the video. Everybody's seen the video. It's still up. It's got 61 million views, and it gets a fresh run every couple of years when somebody reposts it, and the comments are exactly what they've always been. Half of them saying he's a hero, and half of them saying he's a fool who robbed his own kid. Lily doesn't read them. She watched it once at 11 and once at 19, and after the second time she came downstairs and stood in the kitchen doorway and said one thing. You know what the crazy part is? What? You never once talked about her, Lily said. Not one time. Not in that video. Not in this house. Not in 19 years. Everybody in the comments thinks that thing's about money. She shook her head. It's not about money. It's about how you never said her name with any heat in it. Not one single time Dad and I was listening, and I've been listening my whole life. Nathan couldn't speak. That's the part, Lily said. The check's not the part. Everybody gets it wrong. Nathan Cole gave up the Navy at 22 years, 4 months, and 11 days. He went to work in a building 2 counties over from the base, in a job Victoria did not create for him and would not let him take until he'd been interviewed by 3 people who didn't work for her. He runs the child care wing, the one on shifts, 4:30 to 2200. He's very good at it, which surprises exactly nobody except Nathan. And there is a whiteboard in his office with 41 names on it, and every one of those names is a kid whose parent is on a ship somewhere. Every morning at 04:30, he unlocks that door himself. Every morning some petty officer comes through it at a dead run with a car seat in one hand, apologizing, terrified. And Nathan says the same 4 words he has said every single morning for 11 years. "You're not late. Go." And they go. And they come back. Because here is the thing that 51 seconds of video and 61 million views and every argument in every comment section for a decade has never once gotten right. Nathan Cole did not tear up a check to prove that money can't buy love. He tore it up because his daughter needed one man on this earth who would not put a number on her, and he was the only one available, and he was standing right there, and he did not look away. That's not a moment. That's a shift. He's been working it since she was 6. He has never once been late.